cultivation world, I begin by getting struck by lightning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. The problem is that we can't defeat them even if we fight them. Facing Su Fan, who is in the middle stage of key training, and the evil ghost Sister Zhen floating behind him. With his dead companion, another black-robed monk begged for mercy. Su Fan pinched his neck, walked forward a few steps, and pressed him against a tree. With a flash of lightning in his eyes, the black-robed monk's eyes suddenly became dull. Su Fan activated the magical power Thunder Eyes to deal with a small cultivator in the second level of key training, which was a dimensionality reduction attack. After a while, he broke the opponent's neck, collected the soul and destroyed the body. After some questioning, Su Fan also found out what happened in Sishu Ferry. These two monks are disciples of the evil sect Blue Ocean Sect. Blue Ocean Sect discovered a demon tomb in Kinkang River. In order to open the demon tomb, it controlled Sishu Ferry. Now the water and land roads leading to Sishu Ferry are basically closed by Blue Ocean Sect. Su Fan has never heard of Blue Ocean Sect, and doesn't know what the demon tomb is. Anyway, he is not going to get involved in this matter. He also doesn't want Hu Guanghe and others to go there. A bunch of mortals getting involved is not looking for death. Su Fan thought for a moment and gave Sister Zhen an order with his mind. No matter what means are used, all these people must be driven back to Luqua County. This order was nothing to Sister Zhen. She floated into the camp with a group of ghosts, and a constable happened to get up to relieve himself, and he was almost scared to death. The screaming like crying for his parents also woke up the others. Everyone opened their eyes in a daze, and saw eerie ghosts floating in the camp. The ghosts kept twisting and changing, forming hideous and terrifying faces. These faces were hideous, some blue and some white, with sharp fangs, some half-sprouted tongues, and some dry skulls, with two dark holes and faintly flashing light. The Taoist priest of Kingsong Temple had just taken out the talisman when he was shocked by Sister Zhen's scream and lost his mind. The others fainted when they saw the Taoist priest of Kingsong Temple, and the camp was blown up immediately. Dozens of people ran out crying, even leaving the camp's vehicles and supplies behind. Watching a group of people disappear into the dark night, Su Fan was about to turn around and leave when he suddenly heard someone calling his name. "Lao Su, where are you?" I heard a squeak. Su Fan smiled. It was Hu Guanghe's voice. After a while, Lao Hu came over carefully with a knife in his hand, constantly calling Su Fan's name. Su Fan sighed and walked over slowly. Hu Guanghe saw a man coming over, holding the knife tightly, staring at the other person. "Lao Hu, it's me." Hearing Su Fan's voice, Lao Hu breathed a sigh of relief. It would be a lie to say he wasn't afraid. He was sweating all over his body, and his hands were still shaking. "Lao Su, hurry up and follow me." Su Fan smiled helplessly, then came in front of Lao Hu. Hu Guanghe ran up a few steps, grabbed his arm and ran out. "Lao Su, I didn't see you just now, I was so anxious." At this time, Lao Hu found that Su Fan had held him, and he immediately became anxious. "Lao Hu, listen to me, I'm leaving." Lao Hu was about to speak when he saw a group of ghosts not far behind Su Fan. He felt that all the pores on his body were swollen, and the back of his head was cold. Su Fan looked back at Sister Zhen, waved his hand, and the evil ghosts disappeared from Lao Hu's sight. Lao Hu was dumbfounded at the time, and he pointed at the disappeared ghosts. "Lao Su, you?" Su Fan patted Lao Hu's shoulder, laughed at himself, and said, "It's a long story." After he finished speaking, he said seriously, "Don't go to Sishu Ferry. If you go, you will all die." Lao Hu understood Su Fan's meaning and nodded heavily. Su Fan took out 2 jade bottles and stuffed them into Lao Hu's hands. The 2 jade bottles contained the monk's healing medicine, Xianji bone repairing paste and dragon and tiger creation powder. Although these 2 kinds of healing medicines are insignificant in the world of cultivation, they are definitely magical medicines that can revive the dead in the mortal world. These 2 bottles are healing medicines, one for external use and one for internal use. Even if you only have 1 breath left, they can keep you alive. Su Fan took out a black magic knife and handed it to Lao Hu. This was seized from an evil cultivator. It was a precious blade that could cut through steel and iron in the secular world. These were all he could give Lao Hu. Other things could not be used. and might even attract the covetousness of others. Originally, he just wanted to leave quietly, but who knew that Lao Hu would risk his life to come back to find him? Then we can make a good relationship, and it will not be in vain for the two of us to get to know each other. Su Fan reminded again, don't take out those 2 bottles of medicine unless it is absolutely necessary. After he said that, he hit Lao Hu's shoulder and smiled, it's time for me to go too, take care. Watching Su Fan's figure slowly disappear in the night, Hu Guanghe stretched out his hand and wanted to shout something, but he couldn't shout it out for a long time. I didn't expect that this brother I met halfway was actually an immortal. It seems that the Sishu Fairy incident should have been caused by those immortals. Mortals like them should not get involved. He looked at the 2 medicine bottles in his hand again, and he carefully put them in his arms. These are 2 lives. But the black knife is not very eye-catching. Hu Guanghe raised the knife and slashed it fiercely on the blade of the magic knife. Ka. The 30 refined steel knife in his hand was instantly broken into 2 pieces. Looking at the blade of the magic knife again, it was not hurt at all. Looking at the direction where Su Fan left, Lao Hu sighed and left disappointed. At this time, Su Fan was sitting cross-legged in a forest. After a long time, Sister Zhen floated into the woods. Just now, he was worried, so he asked Sister Zhen to follow Lao Hu quietly. It seems that Lao Hu has reunited with others, and he can finally leave with peace of mind. Su Fan's eyes condensed, and his consciousness scanned his arm back and forth several times, but found nothing unusual. Just when he was about to withdraw his spiritual consciousness, he suddenly found that the ghost face tattoo on his arm had a little bit of abnormality. Su Fan's face turned pale. At this moment, he had already used the ethereal spirit method and hidden spirit technique, and also slapped the invisibility talisman on his body. He had used all his hiding methods, but he still couldn't escape the detection of the secret technique, which meant that the other party had upgraded the secret technique or had a better magic weapon. Su Fan didn't even think about it, and hurriedly stood up and drove the Yinfeng boat away. In the night sky hundreds of miles away, a thick black smoke rolled in. Gu Qinghu looked at the arrow on the compass, shaking violently, and suddenly became excited. Haha! Little thief, I wonder where you can run. Gu Qinghu put away the compass, opened her hands, and muttered to herself. The dark fog surrounding her instantly accelerated to the extreme, like a dark lightning, rapidly passing through the night. Su Fan drove the Yinfeng boat and ran forward like crazy. The Yinfeng boat has a good advantage. As long as you are willing to spend spirit stones, you can make the speed of the flying boat several levels faster. The disadvantage is that it consumes a lot of spirit stones. A medium-grade spirit stone must be consumed for a few hundred miles. At this time, Su Fan still cares about spirit stones. If the people are gone, what's the use of having more spirit stones? Will they be left for the opponent? If he runs like this, he will definitely not be able to escape. Su Fan has seen the strength of the witch, and it is only a matter of time before he is caught up. In fact, once he loses the ability to conceal his breath, it will be useless even if he runs to the horizon. In fact, it is not a problem that he can't run away. The problem is that he can't beat him. Lao Yi, such a powerful swordsman, could take down the witch. If he were to do so, he would only die. Su Fan gritted his teeth and it seemed that he could only use this trick. Thinking of this, Su Fan turned around and disappeared in the thick night with a whoosh. Thanks to Zir and Zteking for the monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. Thank you for your support and encouragement. Thanks to the unfortunate adventure of the old man in the northwest, Suo Yisi, Laopur, Book Friend 20221023180219921. Book Friend 20170826200520614, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 52 Extraterrestrial Demons. Gu Qinghu drove the netherworld ghost smoke and flew rapidly in the dark night sky. In a short time, he arrived at the place where Su Fan had just stayed. He looked at the arrow on the compass in his hand and saw that it had completely deflected to another direction. Little thief, I wonder where you can run to. Gu Qinghu sneered and waved his hand gently, and the black smoke instantly disappeared into the night. Every few dozen miles on the Qinkang River, there is a ferry for people on both sides to cross the river by boat. Sishu Ferry is a ferry along the Qinkang River. This place is relatively remote, and there are not many people on both sides. On weekdays, there are only a few small boats on the ferry on the shore. But these days, Sishu Ferry has changed from the deserted days of the past and has become very lively. The ferry is full of various boats, and several camps have been set up on the shore. More than 100 monks in hooded black robes have gathered here. Dozens of huge bonfires were lit on both sides of the river, reflecting the Kinkang River like daylight. Not only that, the waterways and land routes around Sishu Ferry were also closed by Luotian sect, especially the waterways, which were cut off from more than 100 miles away. All ships coming and going would be detained, and if they resisted, they would be sunk on the spot. The people on the boats would be transported to the river surface of Sishu Ferry by boat, bled and thrown into the Kinkang River, and the entire river surface was almost dyed bloody. At the ferry on the east bank of Sishu Ferry, several black-robed monks were standing on the pier on the shore. The leader was an elderly monk of the 9th level of key training, with sparse white hair on his head, a skinny body, and skin and flesh almost tightly wrapped around his bones. His face was very scary. He put his hands behind his back and looked at the river surface with a cold look. It should be soon. Get some more mortals over. Several black-robed monks behind him hurriedly bowed in response. After a while, hundreds of mortals were driven to the riverside, and each of them seemed to be cursed, walking forward with a dull look. They lined up on a boat and were transported to the center of the river. Several black-robed monks cut them with knives and pushed them into the Kinkang River, one by one. The blood floating on the river surface became more and more intense, and the river water almost turned red like blood. At this time, the river surface suddenly appeared with streams of bubbles, more and more, and finally, like a boiling pot, the entire river surface was boiling. The black-robed old man on the pier showed a terrifying smile on his face. The tomb of the gods will be open soon. Let the people below be on high alert. In the next 2 days, not even a bird is allowed to be let in. Yes, yes, the black-robed monks behind the old man responded loudly, and then dispersed. In the dark night sky, a thick black smoke rolled in and fell to the ground. Gu Qinghuan appeared and glanced at the compass in her hand. The pointer arrow on it was spinning rapidly. She sneered and put the compass into the storage bag. Little thief, I found you. Gu Qinghuan's eyes condensed, and her spiritual sense was released instantly, taking in everything within 100 meters. Hey! She waved her hand, and 2 streams of black smoke whistled away. They turned into 2 ropes and rolled over the 2 black-robed monks hiding nearby. Senior, spare my life. The 2 monks were tied tightly by the black smoke, struggling and shouting desperately. What are you doing? Why are you hiding here furtively? The 2 black-robed monks looked at each other, and as soon as one of them was about to speak, his flesh and blood was devoured by the netherworld ghost lion, leaving behind a pale skeleton. I said. Gu Qinghuan asked for a while, frowned immediately, and waved her hand to turn the other party into a pile of bones. The ocean sect, God's tomb, could it be that the little thief joined a cult? She waved her hand and turned into black smoke again, blending into the dark night. The diffuse black mist slowly floated forward. From time to time, it turned into several black ropes, silently turning the Luotian sect disciples hiding around into piles of pale bones. As they were about to reach the river, they saw piles of bonfires burning in the distance. Suddenly, a faint light whistled over. Gu Qinghuan waved his hand, and the black smoke turned into a ghost hand, slapping the long sword and magic weapon away. A figure hiding behind a tree in the distance, with lightning flashing under his feet, disappeared from the spot in an instant, even leaving behind the long sword and magic weapon. However, the sudden explosion of spiritual energy fluctuations still alarmed the Luotian sect monks on the riverside, and several figures drove magic weapons and came suddenly. This damn guy! Fu Qinghuan was so angry that his teeth itched, and he spread his arms, and several black smoke turned into several hideous ghost claws, with a piercing whistle, rolling towards several black-robed monks. Not good. It's the late stage of key training. The 2 black-robed monks who were in the front were entangled by the thick black smoke just after they sacrificed their magic weapons, and fell to the ground one after another. The few people behind them turned around and fled without thinking. But they only flew a short distance before they were entangled by several black ghost hands and swept away. Ouch! A huge roar came from the riverside. The sound was shrill and piercing, and Su Fan, who was hiding nearby, was dizzy. A huge black shadow suddenly appeared in front of Gu Qinghuan. The black shadow kept twisting and changing, and gradually appeared in front of her. This was a demon nearly 2 meters tall, with 2 horns on its head, covered with black hard armor all over its body, and hideous bone spurs on its back. In front of it was a pair of huge sickle-shaped forelimbs like a praying mantis. When the two forelimbs moved, you could hear the creaking sound of bones being dislocated, which sounded extremely creepy. Knife Demon, Gu Qinghun frowned, looking at the hideous demon in front of her. She had seen the atlas of the foreign demons in her master's study, so she recognized the name of this demon at a glance. Boom! Another huge figure fell from the sky and hit the ground heavily. This demon was about 3 feet tall, and its huge body was disproportionate, like a pile of shit falling on the ground. There were countless head-shaped tumors on its blue skin, and each tumor had facial features, constantly emitting bursts of sad and miserable cries. Power Demon, Gu Qinghun recognized this demon again and frowned immediately. Standing in front of her were two foreign demons, which were somewhat similar to the heavenly demon talisman of the demon sect. They were all summoned projections. Compared with the real foreign demons, their strength was far inferior. Su Fan, who was hiding next to him, was shocked. This is the foreign demon. Meow. It is indeed very evil and terrifying. 2 foreign demons are enough to deal with this witch. At this time, the black-robed old man by the river slowly walked out of the darkness. Since you are here, don't leave, Gu Qinghun sneered and glanced to the side. She saw Su Fan hiding nearby to watch the excitement, and she couldn't help but feel a ball of anger in her heart. She understood the purpose of this little thief, who wanted to lure her here and let the people of Blue Ocean sect hold her back. Wishful thinking. She turned her head and shouted at Su Fan. Junior brother, I will hold them back. You go to the demon tomb. Su Fan, who was hiding in a dark corner and ready to watch the excitement, was suddenly stupid. This is fucking. Thanks to Sky Magic Tower for the reward. Thanks to Sky Magic Tower, Zhengayu Tongying, book friend 170,200,114,839,216, book friend 20221023180219921, book friend 20170826200520614, book friend 150,514,093,553,343, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 53 I've been on guard against you. Hearing Gu Qinghun shout, the old man in black robe also noticed Su Fan's hiding place. He waved to his men and said, catch him. A dozen disciples of Blue Ocean sect received the order and surrounded him from all directions. Su Fan subconsciously wanted to run away. He took out all the Earth Escape talisman. But when he thought of the ghost face tattoo on his arm, Su Fan gave up the idea of running away. As long as this witch is not dead, she can find him even if he runs to the horizon. At least he can't run now. He must see this witch die with his own eyes, otherwise he will not be able to sleep well in the future. As for the people of Blue Ocean sect, there are only 3 in the middle stage of key training, and the rest are small cultivators in the early stage. Although he can't do anything to this witch, he really doesn't take these people seriously. Of course, Su Fan didn't show his disdain in his heart, but pretended to be panicked. He turned around and ran before the disciples of Blue Ocean sect surrounded him. Su Fan used the wind walk to float around in the woods, and occasionally used the thunder ghost step to scurry around. He ran in front, and a group of Blue Ocean sect disciples chased him from behind. Various magic tools and talismans were thrown at him, but the fight was quite lively, but they could not catch up with Su Fan at all. Seeing Su Fan being chased in a miserable state, Gu Qinghun almost laughed out loud, and the depression he had been feeling for so many days was finally relieved a lot. Woohoo! The 2 foreign demons on the opposite side roared and rushed up with a roar. Gu Qinghun sneered. He took out a bone talisman from the storage bag, and a drop of blood shot out from his middle finger and fell on the bone talisman. The surrounding wind suddenly rose, and a destructive aura instantly filled the air. In front of Gu Qinghun, a dignified old man suddenly appeared. His behavior was profound and majestic. He was wearing a black robe, which fluttered in the wind. His aura was wanton and wild, shocking people's minds. Seeing the 2 foreign demons, his eyes suddenly condensed. Devil, die! A white bone sword suddenly appeared in his hand. The murderous blade was faintly glowing with green light, and the murderous aura had become real. Bone talisman, the black-robed monk of Blue Ocean sect panicked. He knew what was good. This bone talisman was extraordinary. It was made from the bones of a great demon sect master before his death, and contained a trace of the great man's residual soul. This kind of thing, if placed in a small sect, would be the treasure of the sect. What kind of background did this witch have? She just took out such a treasure and used it. It was so wasteful. How could he know that the old demons of the Ghost King sect wanted to empty the sect in order to cultivate Gu King Huan? A bone talisman was nothing. At this time, the black-robed old man had already raised the bone sword and swung it fiercely. Wherever the sword tip pointed, the murderous aura locked on, and everything was slaughtered. Wherever the edge passed, the airflow was turbulent, and endless murderous intent was set off. Bang! The violent sword demon was cut in half by the sword, and his figure exploded and turned into a puff of green smoke. Bang! The huge power demon was stirred into a mess by the sword light and instantly turned into ashes. After killing the two projections of the evil demon, the old man in black robe laughed at the sky, and his figure gradually disappeared. Gu King Huan put the bone talisman into the storage bag. This thing was thrown to her by the Supreme Elder so that she could play with it to relieve her boredom. This was the first time to use it, and she could use it 3 or 5 times. The black-robed monk of Luotian sect turned pale. The two projections of the gods and demons he summoned were destroyed by others at the first sight. He made up his mind and took out a statue of the demon god from the storage bag. Puff! The black-robed monk violently sprayed a mouthful of blood at the statue, and the statue of the demon god instantly glowed with red blood. A strange and weird aura emanated from the statue. The flesh and blood of the black-robed monk seemed to be sucked away all at once, and his skinny figure had become like a skeleton. His aura also began to surge. The 9th level of key training. The great perfection of key training. The initial stage of foundation building. Gu King Huan's eyes condensed. What kind of evil skill did the other party practice? In such a short time, he had successively improved his cultivation by 3 levels. These crooked ways only know how to play tricks. Humph. Foundation building is shit. It's not like I haven't killed before, although the other party's aura is already foundation building. It is really nothing for a genius like Gu King Huan. If she wants to build a foundation, she can sit on the ground and stand up again. Gu King Huan didn't have the heart to waste time with him. If he delayed for a while, the little thief would have run away. He slapped the storage bag and took out a jade talisman. With a snap, the jade talisman was crushed by him. A few meters in radius, it was suddenly enveloped by a thick black smoke, gradually turning into a warrior wearing torn black armor. The black-robed monk opposite almost cried. What are you doing? I spent so much blood and energy to sacrifice to gods and demons, and barely reached the foundation building stage. Others just used a 2nd level J talisman to create a ghost general. Damn, it's too bullying. At this time, Su Fan had already led a group of Luotian sect members to distance. At this time, he no longer pretended to be a coward. He slapped a corpse coffin on his waist, and 2 bronze-armored zombies jumped out and rushed towards the Luotian sect members. Several people who rushed in front were scared to death by the sudden appearance of the zombies. The zombies were not used to their problems, and rushed up violently, waving their sharp claws, tearing several people into pieces. The people following behind turned around and wanted to run. Su Fan waved his hand and sacrificed the evil ghost banner, releasing Sister Zhen and a group of evil ghosts. You bastards have been chasing me for so long. You can't run. He took out the ghost whip again and swung it out fiercely. The eerie black rope was like a poisonous snake that would bite anyone it could. It rolled up crazily, entangled several disciples of the Luotian sect, and devoured their souls. More than 20 disciples of the Luotian sect were not enough for Sister Zhen and the others to share. Su Fan followed behind, cleaning up the battlefield leisurely. This poor bunch of 20-somethings didn't even have a few storage bags, and I don't know how they managed to survive. He released his spiritual sense and fought in the distance. These 2 evil demons from outside the domain looked quite evil. It took so long, but they still haven't taken down this witch. It's also a silver-plated spearhead, nothing else. After Su Fan cleaned up the battlefield, he collected Sister Zhen and the others, and then carefully returned to the riverside. The results surprised him. Gu King Huan and the ghost general she summoned beat the Luotian sect monk so hard that he was almost beaten to pulp. It was so miserable. Su Fan was dumbfounded. Where were the 2 foreign demons? It was only a short while ago. How could they disappear? The wind was strong. Run away. Wouldn't it be stupid not to run at this time? Su Fan took out the Earth Escape talisman and slapped it on his body, and a yellowish-brown light flashed. But he didn't escape, but stayed where he was. Gu Qinghuan sneered, letting you escape by earth escape last time, and I had been prepared for this trick of yours. Boom boom boom, suddenly, a deafening sound suddenly came from the river surface in the distance. The Qingkang River was like a boiling pot, and the almost red river water set off huge waves. The night sky also became gloomy, and the sound of muffled thunder roared, and an invisible divine pressure began to descend from the sky. The demon tomb is open. Gu Qinghuan was also shocked by this scene. Just as she was stunned, the black-robed monk's eyes revealed a fanatical look, and his body suddenly glowed with blood. Whoosh! The man had disappeared from the original place, and the figure reappeared, already floating above the river. He looked at the rolling river water, and his eyes were fanatical as he plunged into it. Humph! You escaped so quickly. Gu Qinghuan turned his head and wanted to deal with the little thief. Then he saw a figure in the distance, suddenly disappearing. He teleported in the air more than a dozen times, and in a blink of an eye he was already above the river, and plunged into the demon tomb. It was that little thief. Gu Qinghuan stomped his feet in anger, and his figure turned into a puff of smoke, and instantly came to the surface of the river, and followed Su Fan into the Qingkang River. Thanks to Zhe, The Bad Adventure of the Old Man in the Northwest, Holiday Coffee, Pepsi and 7-Up, Book Friends 20220106225710373, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 54 How Am I Small? Su Fan jumped into the boiling Qingkang River, but he didn't feel like he was falling into the water. It was like falling into an endless abyss, falling down non-stop. After a while, the feeling of floating around disappeared. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in a strange place. He wanted to get up from the ground, but he felt his body sink, as if there was an invisible force pressing him down. The gravity here is at least twice as much as outside. Su Fan circulated his spiritual energy and found that it had also become much slower. It was pitch black around him, and he couldn't see his hand in front of him. Su Fan's eyes flashed with lightning, and he activated his magical power Thunder Eyes, and only then could he see the surrounding scene clearly. He seemed to be in a huge cave, dark and gloomy, winding and twisting as if it led directly to the underworld. There was an extremely hot breath in the air, and pieces of dust-like particles were floating everywhere. They kept flashing, like living things. Su Fan swept to his spiritual consciousness, and suddenly felt as if his soul was pricked by a needle, and it was extremely painful. He calmed down, slowly stretched out his hand, and touched the floating particles. His fingers seemed to be stung, and the burning breath penetrated into his hand, and eroded his body frantically along his arm. Su Fan was immediately scared. What the hell was this? Just when he was at a loss, the Tao seed in his body suddenly rotated, generating a huge suction force, sucking the burning breath into the Tao seed. Countless burning breaths poured into his body, and Su Fan collapsed to the ground, rolling in pain. Finally, the pain subsided. Su Fan stood up with a grin, panting heavily. What the hell, why did he touch it? He looked up again, and the particle floating in the air disappeared. Su Fan frowned. Could it be that the Thunder Tao seed likes to eat this thing? It's really strong. Su Fan drew out the magic sword and explored forward carefully. When he encountered the particles floating in the air, he would avoid them from a distance. Every time at this time, the Tao seed in his body would be ready to move. Eat some, it's not over yet. You're so good at eating, I almost died of pain just now. After walking for a while, a glimmer of light appeared in front of me, getting brighter and brighter. Walking out of the cave, the view in front of me suddenly became clear. In front of me was a gray space, all desolate and dead, with large and small rough gravel, without a trace of green. The uneven ground was full of corpses. Each corpse had a pale face, as if the blood had been drained, looking extremely scary. Little thief, Su Fan panicked when he heard the shout. He turned around and wanted to run, but several ghost claws transformed from black smoke had surrounded him. The Tao seed in Su Fan's body exploded. Whirlwind slash, he used his right foot as the axis, and his body spun violently. The magic sword emitted a sharp and piercing sonic boom and swept fiercely. A strong wind suddenly rose, and the gravel on the ground was rolled up, forming a violent whirlwind. Bang! The magic sword wrapped in hot electric current instantly chopped off several ghost claws. Gu Qinghuan was stunned. It had been a long time since they last met, and the swordsmanship of the little thief had become so fierce. Just as she was stunned, Su Fan's feet flashed with lightning. In a flash, he was in front of Gu Qinghuan. Sacrifice yourself to cut. Facing the whistling magic sword, Gu Qinghuan clearly felt a terrifying killing intent. The determination to move forward made her tremble with fear. Snap! Gu Qinghuan was afraid of breaking a pendant on her chest, so she instantly propped up a colorful light shield. Su Fan's magic sword slashed fiercely on the light shield, and he was bounced out by a huge recoil force. Bang! He fell more than 10 meters away, rolled on the ground several times, hit a huge stone, and spit out a mouthful of blood. Damn! Second level J talisman, I couldn't beat him in the first place, and I didn't expect him to be a Krypton Gold player. What's the point of fighting? Seeing Gu Qinghuan looking at him coldly, Su Fan knew that he was doomed. He made up his mind and took out the 100 poisons and corruption miasma from the storage bag. Just as he was about to crush it, he saw a thick black fog floating over from a distance, and then it instantly dispersed and drilled into the corpses on the ground. Su Fan was stunned. He was familiar with this situation. He put away the 100 poisons and corruption miasma and collapsed on the ground to watch the fun. Su Fan didn't have many corpses here. They were all over Gu Qinghuan's side. When she was entangled by the devil's soul, he would take the opportunity to escape. Gu Qinghuan was also a little horrified. Just as she was about to leave, she heard a series of shrill roars. Woo! Woo! Several human corpses bounced up from the ground. Their bodies began to expand greatly, turning into hideous and evil foreign demons, roaring and rushing towards her. Su Fan took the opportunity to get up, teleported several times in a row, and ran out like crazy. Gu Qinghuan was so angry that her teeth were itching, but she was entangled by more than a dozen evil demons and had already been busy with her own affairs. How could she have the energy to chase Su Fan? Although the 7-colored Brahma light shield has strong protection, the aura of the evil demons is specifically designed to counter the spiritual shield, and even the second-level J talisman cannot last long. In addition, the gravity in the demon tomb has more than doubled, and there is also evil spirit in the air, which greatly affects her strength. Not only that, the human corpses on the ground are still constantly mutating. After a while, the number of mutated evil demons surrounding her has reached dozens. Gu Qinghuan used the bone talisman twice to barely break out of the siege, but was immediately surrounded by countless evil demons. She gritted her teeth, took out a leather talisman, and just wanted to tear it open. She saw the thief who had already escaped, running back in embarrassment. It turned out that Su Fan ran not far away when he encountered the mutated evil demon, and he could only turn around and run back. But he was still surrounded by a large group of evil demons. Su Fan, holding a magic sword, tried his best to break out of the siege. However, Luo Xianjiao threw thousands of corpses into the demon tomb, and almost all of them were corroded by demon souls. 3 or 5 heads were not a big deal, but now there are hundreds or thousands of alienated evil demons. Anyone would be finished. Su Fan swept his sword and cut off an alienated evil demon in half, but several more rushed up immediately, and he couldn't kill them all. The alienated evil demons have strong bodies, and ordinary magic weapons can withstand a few hits. Moreover, they have amazing jumping ability, sharp claws and tails like steel whips, and their attack power is extremely amazing. If an ordinary cultivator was surrounded by so many alienated evil demons, he would not be able to hold on for long and would be torn to pieces. Fortunately, Su Fan's body is strong and his physical strength is amazing. With the thunder power of the Tao seed in his body, he managed to survive. In addition, Su Fan's magic sword seems to be the nemesis of evil demons, and can easily cut off the heads of evil demons. Even so, Su Fan was already covered in wounds. On the other hand, Gu Qinghuan was even worse off. She didn't have the physical strength of Su Fan, nor did she have a magic sword that could easily kill the evil demons. Fortunately, she was a RMB player with countless trump cards, but no matter how many trump cards she had, she couldn't withstand the siege of so many alienated evil demons. Gu Qinghuan also saw the extraordinariness of Su Fan's magic sword, and immediately had an idea in her mind. Little thief, let's join forces. Su Fan heard the witch calling him, and he didn't even turn his head. How am I small? Have you tried? Su Fan's words almost choked Gu Qinghuan to death, and she trembled with anger. At this time, this guy still wanted to take advantage of the mouth, how big his heart is. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55. Don't always try to take advantage of me. Su Fan certainly knew the current situation, but he didn't want to indulge in bad habits. Damn it, you've been chasing me for a long time. Now that you don't want to kill me, I have to be grateful. Go to hell. For a beautiful woman, especially a proud son of the sect, even if you knock your head to the ground, she will not pay attention to you. In this case, why bother to stick to her cold butt? How cheap is he? So Su Fan had to choke her a few words first. Don't take yourself too seriously, I won't pay attention to you. If you continue like this, we will all die. Let's die, anyway, my life is worthless. Why are you like this? If we join forces, we will have a chance to fight our way out. Let's join forces to rush out, and then let you kill me. Do you think I'm stupid? Gu Qinghuan didn't expect this guy to be so difficult to deal with. Oh, I promise that I won't kill you for the time being. Su Fan curled his lips. Then I have nothing to talk to you about. I want to ask, how did I offend you? Are you coming all the way here to kill me? Gu Qinghuan was speechless. She couldn't tell him that it was because of his Dao heart, so she could only change the subject. See the cave over there? I'll help you clear out the evil demons here, and we'll have a chance to escape. In fact, Su Fan had seen the cave a long time ago, but he didn't have the ability to clear out the evil demons over there. There were so many of them, and he could only use his magic sword to chop them one by one. He would be exhausted before he could get through. But he didn't want to give up so quickly, and he had to make her promise. Thinking of this, he rolled up his sleeves and revealed the ghost face tattoo. You should remove this curse first, and then we can talk. Gu Qinghuan was so angry that her teeth were almost broken. If she wasn't careful, she was almost swept by the claws of an evil demon. She dodged the attack of the evil demon in a panic, and then took a deep breath. Okay, I promise you. After she finished speaking, she made a seal with her hands and chanted a spell. A bloody humanoid phantom condensed on Gu Qinghuan's arm, and it exploded with a pop. Su Fan rolled up his arm and saw that the ghost face tattoo on his arm had completely disappeared. And, Gu Qinghuan's pretty face turned pale with anger. This guy was too hateful. Don't push it too far. Su Fan ignored her and continued, and, if we get out of here, you are not allowed to kill me. You can do whatever you want in the future. Gu Qinghuan took a deep breath and nodded. Okay. I promise you, you have to swear a blood oath. Gu Qinghuan glared at Su Fan fiercely, and then swore a blood oath. The blood oath is very magical. If a poor casual cultivator swears a blood oath, it doesn't matter if he breaks it, because he can't go far anyway. But for a genius, it is quite troublesome. Once he breaks it, he will always be disturbed by the inner demon when he breaks through in the future. Su Fan was satisfied this time, and he looked at the cave over there. If you have any big moves, come in that direction. Gu Qinghuan nodded, took out the bone talisman, and a drop of blood fell on it with his middle finger. A breath of destruction spread instantly. The majestic old man appeared in front of Gu Qinghuan again. Devil, die! A sword swept out, and the boundless sword energy seemed to cut the entire space in half. The densely packed alienated demons in front were strangled to pieces by this earth-shattering and majestic killing intent. Pah! The bone talisman in Gu Qinghuan's hand shattered and turned into bone powder and disappeared with the wind. Su Fan was dumbfounded. What the hell? What kind of cultivation is this old man? With one sword, he cleared more than 100 demons on the opposite side. What are you waiting for? Hearing Gu Qinghuan's urging, Su Fan came to his senses. There was a flash of lightning under his feet, and his body kept changing positions. He waved the big sword to kill all the demons that surrounded him on both sides. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the two of them used their own methods and quickly escaped into the cave. They finally breathed a sigh of relief when they entered the cave. The cave entrance was narrow, and Su Fan alone could block the attacks of countless evil demons. But what surprised the two was that the evil demons outside the cave did not chase into the cave, but wandered outside and kept roaring. Su Fan breathed a sigh of relief, and he sat on the ground, panting. Seeing the dust floating in the air, Gu Qinghuan quickly hid far away. No wonder, there is actually Yangjidisha here. After hearing what Gu Qinghuan said, Su Fan felt familiar, as if he had seen it in a book. What did you say? Gu Qinghuan rolled his eyes at him. This country bumpkin. Yangjidisha, The evil demons outside the domain are most afraid of pure yang things. Su Fan almost laughed when he heard it. Pure yang things are not only feared by evil demons, but also by ghost cultivators. He stretched out his hand and pointed at the particles of dust floating in the air. This thing is the Yang Jidisha, which is specially used to defeat all kinds of evil spirits. Gu Qinghuan ignored him. She didn't want to talk to this bastard now. Su Fan suddenly slapped his forehead, and he remembered. The second level of the heavenly demon holy body art requires this thing to refine the body. No wonder, the thunder and lightning in the body always get excited when seeing this thing. According to what the witch said, the Yang Jidisha should be more terrifying than the thunder of heaven and earth. The heavenly demon holy body art is so fucking perverted that it actually uses this thing to refine the body. When he just fell into the demon tomb, he touched it with his hand, just a little bit, and it almost hurt him to death. Anyway, he can't practice it, who can stand it? Looking at Su Fan sitting on the ground, Gu Qinghuan was furious. Hey, we can't stay here forever, right? Su Fan turned his head and looked at her after hearing this, and replied unhappily. Wait a minute, it seems that you are not tired of following behind. My hands are so weak from chopping evil demons. Gu Qinghuan took a deep breath, suppressing her anger in her heart. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. She has never been treated like this since she was a child. Whether it is the elders and senior brothers of the sect, or the proud sons and family elites of other sects, all of them dote on her. Only this country bumpkin doesn't take her seriously. In fact, Su Fan knew very well what Gu Qinghuan's status was. He didn't even have the qualifications to be a licker for others. So he didn't even want to treat her well. Indulge her bad habits. Su Fan rested for a long time before getting up from the ground and looking at Gu Qinghuan, whose face turned pale with anger. Let's go. What are you still doing here? After he said that, he didn't even give Gu Qinghuan a chance to speak, and turned and left. You? Gu Qinghuan pointed at Su Fan, his lips trembling with anger. Su Fan laughed. This girl was just a spoiled little girl. He didn't want to help take care of children. The two walked one after the other into the depths of the cave, carefully avoiding the anode and the ground. Gu Qinghuan cursed this bastard in her heart as she walked. She accidentally bumped into Su Fan in front of her. Su Fan patted the place where he was bumped, and looked at Gu Qinghuan with dislike. He said unhappily, be careful, don't always try to take advantage of me. Thanks to the monthly ticket encouragement from the Buck Friend 202208163414009, thanks to Zaeir, the unfortunate adventure of the old man in the Northwest, Holiday Coffee, Zhengayu Tongying, the third generation of online literature, Laopur, Book Friend 202201622571037, Book Friend 20220816163414009, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Laobu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 56. Why did you mess with this thing? Su Fan's words made Gu Qinghuan dumbfounded. How shameless must this guy be to say such a thing? She had lived for more than 20 years, and all the days combined were not as angry as today. Gu Qinghuan took a deep breath and decided not to pay attention to this bastard. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Su Fan was also happy about it. He didn't want to pay attention to her in the first place. The two came to a fork in the road, and Su Fan turned around. Which way? Whatever. Su Fan nodded and chose the road on the left. After walking for a while, there was light in front of them, but Gu Qinghuan grabbed him. Let's go back. What's the matter? There are all positive and negative energies in front of us. Is it true? Gu Qinghuan is a pure yin body, and is extremely sensitive to the breath of pure yang, but she is too lazy to explain to this guy. Then go. Be careful not to be swallowed up by the evil spirit. The positive and negative energies are so powerful. Su Fan continued to walk forward after speaking, but he didn't walk far before he saw an extremely hot breath in front of him. The air was full of dense particles, and the whole cave was occupied by the dust of the earth demon. And the breath of the Yang earth demon outside the cave was even stronger. Su Fan walked back dejectedly. If anyone went in with such a strong Yang earth demon, they would definitely melt. Helplessly, the two could only return to the fork in the road and choose the road on the right. This road was similar, and soon they saw the light. Su Fan turned around and put his index finger to his lips. He took out the evil ghost banner from the storage bag and was about to release a ghost. Gu Qinghuan rolled his eyes and flicked his fingers. A ball of black smoke popped out, and instantly turned into a ghost head and floated away. Su Fan put away the evil ghost banner in dismay. It was amazing to play with ghosts. After a while, the ghost head floated back. Gu Qinghuan retracted his head and whispered, "The guy from Luotian sect is outside." Su Fan nodded and said, "Then catch him. This guy should know the way out." The two walked gently to the entrance of the cave and carefully poked their heads out. It was still a gray space, desolate and dead. But it was full of strange bones, each of which was hideous and terrifying. It was obvious that they were not human or monsters, but the remains of foreign evil demons. In the middle was a simple earth platform, rough and primitive. In the middle of the earth platform was a huge evil demon skull, and there were bones at the four corners, which looked like the limbs of the evil demon. The evil demon skull was painted with obscure and strange blood-colored patterns, which looked evil. The black-robed monk of Luotian sect was covered with blood. He was lying on the earth platform, trying hard to draw something. He slowly turned his head and smiled strangely at the two. That smile was crazy and excited, with a bloodthirsty evil spirit, which made people shudder. Su Fan felt his scalp tingling and the hairs on his body stood up. What the hell? Gu Qinghuan next to him was in the same situation and shuddered. Since they had been discovered, the two of them didn't care and walked out of the cave directly. The black-robed monk ignored them and continued to paint. The two walked to the earth platform and were stunned by the scene in front of them. They saw that the earth platform was covered with various patterns, and the shapes were extremely strange. Compared with the runes in the world of cultivation, it was completely different. The most terrifying thing was that these weird patterns were all painted by the black-robed monk with his own blood. He painted with a fanatical face, and kept muttering in his mouth, like a mental patient. His bloody hands had been worn to the point of exposing the bones, but he didn't care at all, and he painted and painted there crazily. Until the last stroke was finished, the black-robed monk stood up, turned his head and looked at the two of them, laughing crazily with a crazy face. "Lotus God is coming, and you all have to die," Gu Qinghuan sneered and raised her hand to take him down. But before she could make a move, the black-robed monk's head began to melt, and the flesh on his face festered and slowly flowed down, revealing a pale skull. Then the body, like a burnt candle, the whole person finally turned into a pool of meat paste. Gu Qinghuan reached out and grabbed a wisp of black smoke in her hand, which was the soul of the black-robed monk. She pinched a seal with her hand, chanted the soul-devouring curse in her mouth, and began to forcibly search the soul. Not good, he is summoning the evil demon from outside the domain. As soon as Gu Qinghuan finished speaking, the earth platform shook violently. The black-robed monk's flesh and blood seemed to come alive, turning into bloodlines that spread everywhere, and finally merged with the veins on the earth platform. The blood-colored veins on the evil demon skull in the middle of the earth platform also began to flicker with a faint light. Fuck. Su Fan secretly cried out that it was not good, and swung a magic sword to cut the evil demon skull. But it was too late. As if an invisible barrier had been formed out of thin air, the great sword was heavily bounced away. Su Fan was also shaken up and fell off the earthen platform, landing on the ground more than 10 meters away. Gu Qinghuan was also shaken off the earthen platform by a huge force. She barely managed to stabilize her body and crushed a second-level attack bone talisman. A huge bone spear suddenly fell from the sky. The thick bone spear fiercely stabbed at the invisible barrier. Boom! The surrounding space shook violently for a few times, and the bone spear shattered. At this time, the invisible barrier on the earthen platform finally appeared. The water-like dark blue light shield flowed slowly, like waves of ripples on the lake. Above the dark blue light shield, I don't know when, a vast starry sky appeared. Boom! The evil demon skull on the earthen platform suddenly burst into dazzling light, rushing straight into the endless void. Su Fan raised his head and looked at the vast starry sky. He sighed in his heart. This time it was a big deal. Gu Qinghuan was also scared. She made up her mind and took out an ancient leather talisman from her storage bag and ripped it open. Buzz! A thick black smoke suddenly appeared around. As the smoke dissipated, an old man appeared. The old man was wearing a black robe that had been washed white, and he looked to be in his 50s or 60s. His hair and beard were all white, his eyes were cloudy, and his face was full of spots and wrinkles. He was like a hunched and fragile old man, with an old and aging look. His face was full of kindness, and there was no trace of the style of a master. "Welcome to the Supreme Elder." Gu Qinghuan hurriedly walked over and bowed to the old man. Su Fan also hurriedly bowed his head and saluted. Don't look at the old man as inconspicuous. This is at least an old demon in the Jinden stage. Even if it is a projection clone, he can blow him to pieces with a breath. Su Fan slowly stepped back and stood in an inconspicuous place, silently pretending to be a dog. The old man glanced at the earthen platform, turned his head and glared at Gu Qinghuan. Nonsense, why did you provoke this thing? Gu Qinghuan was scolded, and pouted with a face full of grievance, looking like he was about to cry. The old man was stunned at the time, and quickly waved his hands with a smile. Okay, tell me what happened. Gu Qinghuan wiped his face and briefly explained what happened. The old man nodded gloomily, then turned around on the edge of the earthen platform with his hands behind his back, like an old vegetable farmer inspecting his own fields. Thanks to Ztecking for the monthly ticket encouragement. Thanks to Zingayu Tongying, Ztecking, book friend 170,200 to 1,114,839,216, book friend 20170826200520614, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 57. This old man is very bad. The old man turned his head and glanced at Gu Qinghuan. This is the altar of devotion. When I first entered the sect, I saw it in a miscellaneous book in the library. Su Fan frowned. Where is devotion and what is its relationship with the Laotian sect? Seeing Gu Qinghuan's puzzled face, the old man pointed to the evil demon skeletons around. These evil demons from outside the domain are all from devotion. They haven't appeared for thousands of years. I didn't expect you to encounter them. Gu Qinghuan was anxious when he heard it, and said, then you should quickly destroy the altar. The old man looked at the altar again and shook his head. Once the altar is opened, the summoning will begin. If this place is destroyed, the evil demons may be teleported to there, which will be more troublesome at that time. After he said that, he turned his head and looked at Gu Qinghuan lovingly with his turbid eyes. I can only take action 3 times. I will help you deal with the evil demons, and you should quickly leave the demon tomb. After the old man finished speaking, he looked at Su Fan with a bad look. This is the guy. He's not that great. How can he affect your Dao heart? Su Fan's face turned pale. I'm just a low-level cultivator. How can I affect your Dao heart? How can I be so virtuous? He quickly looked at Gu Qinghuan. You have sworn a blood oath. Gu Qinghuan hesitated for a moment and said, I have sworn a blood oath. I won't kill him this time. The old man looked at Su Fan again and laughed. Oh, you kid is actually a personal cultivator. The old man likes you, so I might as well give you an opportunity. Su Fan had a bad premonition. This old man was very bad. Before he could say anything, he felt that he suddenly flew up. When he recovered, he found that he had appeared in a cave. Su Fan remembered where he was. Not far ahead was the cave entrance full of anode and earthly evil. This old bitch, too damn cruel. He wanted to escape, but found that he couldn't move at all. Boy, I didn't expect there would be a yang disha here. This thing is rare. This is a rare place for body training. The old man patted Su Fan's shoulder, and then gently pushed Su Fan out of the cave. Su Fan flew out of the cave directly. At this time, he could move, but it was impossible to escape again. He hurriedly sat cross-legged and practiced a heavenly demon holy body art. The air was extremely hot and filled with mist like evil spirits that rolled towards him. The body protection magic circle of the immaculate treasure clothes had just propped up an ore shield, and it was instantly corroded by the manic evil spirit. Immediately afterwards, the 2 aura shields propped up by the body protection magic circle also broke one after another. The rich evil spirit wrapped Su Fan, and it felt like being thrown into a boiling oil pan. The epidermis of the skin began to fester, the muscles were also melting, and there was no hair left. The bones crackled and shattered, and the tendons broke one after another. Even the blood in his body was boiling, and the evaporating blood was all over his body. Su Fan had lost consciousness and could not even feel a trace of pain. His entire body was in tatters, and only a trace of remnant was left struggling to maintain it. A sense of sadness rose in his heart. Once he lost consciousness, he would definitely die. But he was unwilling to die like this, and he had to fight no matter what. Su Fan, who was forced into a desperate situation, gave it his all. He simply ignored his already dilapidated body, threw away all distractions, concentrated all his energy, and operated the heavenly demon holy body art without distraction. Strangely enough, Su Fan, who had thrown away all distractions, seemed to have entered a state of emptiness without sadness or joy, desire or demand. The violent and manic yang Jidisha in his body was gradually controlled. Countless manic evil spirits began to gather towards the Tao seed at his heart. The Tao seed began to rotate rapidly, madly devouring the yang Jidisha in his body. The Dao seed has gradually taken shape, as black as ink, only the size of a fingernail, and its appearance is faintly filled with purple light. The technique is constantly running, and a trace of purple evil spirit overflows from the Dao seed, circulating back and forth along the meridians. What is shocking is that wherever the purple evil spirit passes, whether it is the damaged meridians, the broken bones and tendons, or the broken and necrotic skin and internal organs, they are all like dead trees coming back to life, and they are rejuvenated. The blood in Su Fan's body, which was almost exhausted, also breathes more pure and thick fresh blood again, flowing freely in his blood vessels. It is like a long drought meeting sweet rain, constantly nourishing his almost dry and broken body. Of course, Su Fan didn't know all this happened. At this time, all he could do was to struggle to maintain the only remaining wisp of remnant. The surrounding Yang Disha, which was originally as thick as fog, now all gathered around Su Fan and spun wildly. It was like a cocoon composed of evil spirits, wrapping him up in it. Gu Qinghuan was a little confused when she saw the Grand Elder and Su Fan disappearing from the spot. Before she could recover, the old man appeared in front of her again. "Where is that guy?" the old man said with a smile. "I saw that this guy is a physical cultivator, so I threw him into the cave of the Yang Jidisha." Gu Qinghuan was anxious, because she had made a blood oath. "Grand Elder, I made a blood oath," the old man glared and said seriously. "You are confused. I just gave him an opportunity. As for whether he can practice it, it depends on his fate." "What does it have to do with you?" Gu Qinghuan rolled her eyes. "That was the Yang Jidisha. Not to mention the middle stage of key training, even a cultivator in the foundation building stage could not bear it." After learning about Su Fan's death, the resentment that had been suppressed in her heart also disappeared. The obsession in her heart seemed to be shattered with a click, and her mind was instantly clear. Gu Qinghuan turned her head with a complicated expression and looked at the cave in the distance. At this time, the little thief would have been turned into meat paste. The old man glanced at Gu Qinghuan and smiled. The girl had passed this hurdle. He suddenly remembered something and frowned. "Girl, I haven't been down the mountain for a long time. What is the origin of that Luotian sect?" "I searched his soul just now. He just joined the Luotian sect not long ago. Someone taught him in his dream. By worshipping the golem, he broke through from the 4th level of key training to the 9th level of key training in just 3 years. After hearing what Gu Qinghuan said, the old man frowned. "Humph. Teaching in dreams and worshipping the golem are all crooked ways. What's the matter with the summoning pattern of Daluotian painted on the altar?" Someone also gave him instructions in a dream. "It is said that once the Luotian god descends, he will be blessed by God and can be reincarnated and cultivated again." The old man snorted coldly and his face darkened. "There are many demon tombs like this in the western wasteland. You've encountered this one, but it's hard to say what will happen in other places." Boom. At this time, the dark blue shield on the altar in the distance suddenly exploded. A fierce aura instantly spread from the altar. "Girl, stay away. The evil demon has just been teleported here. It's good to have 30% of its original strength, haha." The old sinister man walked over with a laugh and stood guard at the edge of the altar. A demon several feet tall had just appeared when it was pressed down by a huge ghost claw, which caught the demon. Chapter 58, Possessed. This evil demon had a hideous face, a pair of fangs several inches long, dark pupils with a fierce aura, and demonic flames. But just as the old yin said, it had just been teleported here, and its strength was greatly weakened. He squatted beside the altar and waited for the opportunity, and caught the evil demon off guard, and killed the ferocious evil demon in 2 moves. The old man came to the side of the evil demon with his hands behind his back and turned around a few times. The Fang demon is equivalent to the human giant in realm. "You put it away. I will open the demon tomb, and you should leave quickly." The old man waved his hand and smashed the altar to pieces, revealing a dark hole. He smiled at the girl, and his figure slowly disappeared. Gu Qinghuan collected the body of the evil demon and walked to the side of the hole. She hesitated for a moment, turned around and looked at the hole in the distance. I don't know why, since she solved the obsession in her heart, she didn't think Su Fan was so hateful. Because from the beginning to the end, I have been chasing him. Now I think it's ridiculous. Let's go and take a look. If this guy is dead, forget it. If he is not dead, save him if you can. If he just leaves like this, I will always feel unwilling. Gu Qinghuan moved and floated into the cave entrance in the distance. At this time, Su Fan has survived the most dangerous stage. The evil spirit that was originally wrapped around his body has been devoured by the Tao seed. His body has been tempered again by the Yang Disha and has now been repaired. Although his body has survived, the danger has just begun. The evil spirit has rushed into a sea of consciousness and is burning his soul over and over again. It's like a ball of fire, constantly burning Su Fan's nerves. The brain is blank, and there is a roar in the ears. It's as if there are tens of millions of steel needles constantly stirring in the brain, and the pain that penetrates into the bone marrow almost makes him faint. If it weren't for the achievement of the Thunder Dale body, and the daily practice of the Ghost Demon Forging God technique in the past 2 years, which has polished the soul to be extremely solid, it is estimated that he would not have been able to endure it long ago. Even so, Su Fan has reached the end of his rope at this moment. Suddenly, a strong black breath gushed out from the Tao seed. The extremely pure black breath gradually condensed into substance, flowing stickily, flowing in his body like sand and water. Su Fan's soul was a little dazed, as if he heard endless demons roaring and howling. Countless negative emotions such as death, hatred, sorrow, pain, struggle, hesitation, pain, despair, wailing, and shrillness instantly enveloped Su Fan. It was like being in an endless hell, with countless people struggling and howling in all directions. There was no hope, no sunshine, and boundless fear everywhere. Su Fan was addicted, willing to alienate and degenerate in this atmosphere, and sink forever. Evil spirit can blind people's minds and make people possessed by demons. The magic sword takes a different approach, and there are ways to dissolve and eliminate evil spirits when practicing. Otherwise, if the evil spirit is overflowing, people can't bear it at all. They either become madmen who only know how to kill or go crazy. Now Su Fan's evil spirit has entered his brain, harming his spirit and spirit. He has been in a state of confusion. At this time, the scene in front of Su Fan changed. His ex-wife stood there. Are you still a man? You have no ambition at all. Look at her, then look at you. You don't make much money, your job is not good, why are you still alive, driving a broken car, living in this broken house, earning so little money? Do you think we are living well? Let's get a divorce. What's the point of living like this? This woman was pointing at him and scolding him non-stop, just like before. Every word was like a needle piercing his heart. The evil thoughts accurately found the most vulnerable part of Su Fan's heart. Just a slight poke, it broke. The obsession is too heavy, almost like a demon. The world is always full of temptations, as well as various entanglements and repressions. It is like a big whirlpool, testing people's original intentions. If you make a mistake, you will be possessed by the devil. With a bang, the Tao seed in the heart exploded instantly, and the extremely hot anode and earthly evil spirits rioted in his body. At this moment, Su Fan's eyes were as red as blood, and his body seemed to have turned into a furnace, with raging fire, burning non-stop. He roared to the sky, and his whole body was filled with an extremely hot breath, like a piece of red-hot iron. Strange black lines, like countless twisted and hideous venomous snakes, kept wandering on his face and body. Gu Qinghuan came to the cave and found that the extremely strong positive pole and earthly evil had dissipated. She carefully came to the entrance of the cave and saw that the outside of the cave was the same, and the breath of positive pole and earthly evil could no longer be felt. Gu Qinghuan walked out of the cave and saw that the guy was sitting cross-legged there, surrounded by evil spirits and filled with extremely hot breath. This guy is not dead. She walked over and shouted softly. Hey! Su Fan's body shook and slowly turned his head. I saw that his eyes were as red as blood, and the veins on his thin face suddenly appeared, and the black lines were like earthworms, constantly wriggling hideously. His eyes were filled with hatred and anger, and he looked like a terrifying hungry ghost from hell. Possessed by a demon. Gu Qinghuan was frightened and quickly retreated, but it was too late. Bitch, I'm going to fuck you to death, Su Fan roared, and he jumped up from the ground. In an instant, he rushed in front of Gu Qinghuan, grabbed her neck and pressed her to the ground. At this moment, Su Fan saw that he was tightly grasping his ex-wife's neck, and he had only one thought in his mind. Fuck this woman to death. This thought had been weighing on his mind for a long time. Asshole, let go. Gu Qinghuan was pressed to the ground by Su Fan, and she was extremely angry. Just as she was about to activate the ghost smoke of the netherworld, a burst of hot breath suddenly came from Su Fan's hands, instantly invading her body. Gu Qinghun was an extremely yin body, and was most afraid of thunder and lightning and pure yang evil spirits. When she was tossed by the two breaths, her body suddenly went limp. Su Fan had long been overwhelmed by the evil spirits and was in a state of possession. Su Fan was very lucky. Gu Qinghun was an extremely yin body, and still had the red pill. It could relieve the yang evil in his body, and Su Fan slowly recovered from the state of being possessed. Boom, after an unknown amount of time. A bang came from Su Fan's mind, like a morning bell and an evening drum, which instantly woke him up from his confused state. It was like a dream. Su Fan glanced at Gu Qinghun below, then looked around, and was immediately confused. Without thinking, he ran away. Su Fan was thinking wildly while running. Wasn't that woman his ex-wife? How did she become Gu Qinghun? If Su Fan were to kill this woman with a sword, he would have no burden at all. But after he did this, Su Fan didn't know what to do. Thanks to Zhiren, 5,211,314, Dufen, Zhengayu Tongying, Holiday Coffee, Book Friend 20170826200520614, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 59 I Remember You. Su Fan walked out of the cave, muttering to himself. That witch has been chasing me, and I'm lucky that I didn't kill her. Why do I feel like a scumbag? Besides, it was just an accident, and he didn't mean to do it. And that old bitch, throwing him there, almost took my life. What's wrong with fucking her? Just fuck her. The more Su Fan thought about it, the more irritable he became. An inexplicable resentment accumulated in his chest, and his blood was boiling. He roared, and punched the cave wall next to him, making a bang. His body was hot and dry, and he had a terrifying murderous aura in his heart, and he had the urge to destroy everything in front of him. Su Fan bit his tongue and calmed himself down. He suppressed his inner restlessness, but the evil fire made him almost explode. According to the method, the second level of cultivation can achieve the pure yang body. After 2 rounds of tempering by the thunder of heaven and earth and the anode and the ground evil, his body became shorter and lighter. Su Fan knew that although he had been freed from the state of being possessed by the devil, the anode and the ground evil was violent and hot. He had just practiced the second level of the heavenly demon saint body art too hastily, which would inevitably bring many negative effects. This time, Su Fan was lucky enough to meet Gu Qinghun, who had an extremely yin body. Otherwise, even if he didn't die, he would become a walking corpse who only knew how to kill. Old cunt, I will remember you. This evil fire burned more and more, and Su Fan used the wind-walking technique to speed through the cave. He bumped into the cave wall from time to time, and kept falling and rolling, but he didn't care. Su Fan came to the altar outside and looked at the dark cave entrance. He didn't jump in, but turned around and came to the outside of another cave entrance. He must release this evil fire in his body. If he went out like this, who knows what he might do? Su Fan made up his mind and rushed into the cave. Once again, he came to that area. At this time, countless alienated evil demons were wandering at the entrance of the cave and roaring loudly. Su Fan roared, drew out his magic sword, and rushed out fiercely. The 2 alienated evil demons saw someone rushing out of the cave and rushed over with roars. Rage slash, the Tao seeds in Su Fan's body exploded, and countless hot breaths wrapped around the big sword, and he slashed down fiercely towards an evil demon. It seemed that he wanted to vent all the resentment in his chest. The ferocious and fierce alienated evil demon was instantly cut in half by the magic sword. Not only that, the demon soul that was originally attached to the human corpse was also chopped in trashes by a sword. Su Fan was stunned. The sword that just slashed out made him a little stunned. He didn't expect that his physical strength and power would increase so much. Moreover, the damage to the demon soul by the Yang Jidisha was so great that the demon soul was chopped into pieces with a sword. Ouch! Just as he was stunned, another mutated evil demon had already pounced on him. Su Fan's feet flashed with lightning, and his body appeared on the other side of the evil demon. He did not swing his sword, but kicked the ground with his feet, and slammed his shoulder hard into the mutated evil demon. Bang! The nearly 10 feet tall evil demon was actually knocked into the air by him, and rolled over and fell more than 10 meters away. Oh my god! Is he so fierce? More and more mutated evil demons rushed up, and Su Fan was not afraid, but more excited, and rushed up with a big sword. At the beginning, he only dared to stay near the cave entrance, fearing that he would be exhausted and surrounded by the evil demons again. As a result, Su Fan found that his physical strength had improved a lot. Later, he simply didn't care about those things, and rushed into the evil demons like crazy, slashing and killing. Su Fan didn't know how many days he stayed in the demon tomb. It was not until he killed all the alienated evil demons here that he vented the evil fire in his heart. Wow! Su Fan emerged from the water, jumped, tapped a few feet on the river surface, and reached the shore. Standing by the river, he circulated his spiritual energy to dry his Taoist robe, and saw his current appearance through the reflection of the river water. He was a little shorter, and his cheeks were so thin that he was almost skin and bones. His head was shiny, and his eyebrows were gone. Every round of tempering with the heavenly demon holy body art would constantly temper the impurities in his body like forging iron. Su Fan tried to move his body, and his whole body suddenly made crackling sounds, and his bones seemed to be frying beans. His body was baptized again and transformed again. The power of his internal organs was purer, and his bones were harder, like a magic weapon. Now his flesh, muscles, fascia, bones, blood and marrow are like rebirth. At this moment, a cool and comfortable breath suddenly overflowed from the center of his eyebrows. Su Fan was stunned for a moment, and quickly concentrated his mind on the center of his eyebrows. With a hum, his mind instantly entered a chaotic and unclear space. It seemed that the world had not yet been opened, it was endless and shrouded in clouds and mist. Su Fan was shocked. Could this be the sea of consciousness? Isn't it only in the late stage of key training that one can see inside? He excitedly used his mind to guide his consciousness to observe his body, and every detail of his muscles, bones, blood, flesh, internal organs, meridians and acupoints was clearly visible. In the winking of the heart, a Dao seed the size of a fingernail was faintly glowing with a purple glow. He closed his eyes and released his consciousness, and the scene of more than 100 meters in radius was in full view. As far as he knew, even if he was in the 9th level of key training, his consciousness could not be released so far. He opened the game panel and was stunned to see the progress of the realm. Name, Su Fan, lifespan, 38/92 years old, age, 5th level of key training. 89/100, Kung Fu, 1. Huningguang, 1st level. 53 out of 100, 2. Horizontal training body forging skill, 2nd stage. 115/203. Heavenly demon sacred body skill, 2nd stage. 35/204. Phantom demon soul forging skill, 2nd stage. 128/200, spells, 1. Wind walking skill, subtle. 676/802. Invisibility skill, subtle. 699/803. Zingai boxing, subtle. 715/804. Void spirit skill, minor success. 85/205. Corpse control skill, minor success. 67/206. Object control skill, minor success. 128/207. Ghost control skill, minor success, 15 out of 208. Netherworld ghost contract, entry, 35 out of 109. 9 extreme serial slash, subtle. 243, 1610. Corpse control skill, minor success. 71/200, skills, 1. Green Lantern Talisman, entry. 65/102. Evil Repelling Talisman, great completion. 201/403. Water Avoiding Talisman, minor completion. 42/404. Armor Horse Talisman, minor completion. 75 out of 405. Arrow Avoiding Talisman, great completion. 58/406. Silent Note, minor completion. 53/400, Magic Powers, 1. Thunder Eyes, great completion. 381/402. Thunder Ghost Steps, subtle completion. 215/800. During this period, he has been in the mortal world and has made almost no progress in his realm. But now his realm is the 5th level of key training. 89 out of 100. How could it be possible to improve so much? Su Fan pondered for a long time before he slapped his forehead and guessed the reason. It is said that the first time the extremely yin body and the pure yang body are united, each other's realm will be greatly improved. If the secret technique of the Hehuan Dao is used, the cultivation will be improved even more. I didn't expect that an accident would give me such an opportunity, saving me 3 years of hard work. I also have the Demon Saint Body Art, which is now, 2nd level. 35/200. The ancient magic skills are indeed overbearing and abnormal. After just one entry, the progress is so fast. I won't practice anymore. It's like risking my life to practice once. This time, Su Fan went through the gates of hell. If it weren't for Gu Kenghuan, he would have died. Thanks to Zaire for his monthly ticket support, and thanks to Zaire, the 3rd generation of online literature, Zhiren, 5,211,314, Dufen, Banayu JM, Pepsi and Kixi, Zingayu Tongying, Holiday Coffee, Book Friends 201708262005200614, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 60 Golem. In early autumn, gusts of wind blew, mixed with the water vapor on the river surface, and the temperature was slightly cool. The Kinkang River was boundless and mighty. At first glance, the river water seemed to be still, but the occasional whirlpool revealed the turbulent waves. Su Fan stood at the bow of the boat, and occasionally the sails swayed on the river. Looking into the distance, there was no trace of Kangshan Mountain. The world was vast, and I was traveling alone, and a sense of vastness came to my mind. After leaving Sishu Ferry, Su Fan did not dare to be too wild, and disguised himself as a mortal again and returned to Lukwa County. He chartered a cargo ship and headed north along the Kinkang River. The owners of this ship were a father and son who traveled back and forth on the Kinkang River to transport goods, and usually took a few passengers with them. The ship was sailing day and night, and had been sailing on the Kinkang River for several days. "Sir, the fish is ready." Su Fan turned around and saw the owner of the ship carrying a large porcelain basin and bringing it into his cabin. The boat owner put down the porcelain basin, walked out of the cabin, smiled and greeted Su Fan, then turned around and secretly looked at his back. This guest looked quite thin, but his appetite was amazing. This big pot of stewed fish was enough for the two of them to eat for several days. Su Fan walked into the cabin, sat at the desk, and took out a bottle of wine from the storage bag. This was bought at the Lukwa County wharf. It was not a famous wine, but it was bought by people who sailed on the river all year round. The characteristic was that it was strong. The large porcelain basin on the desk was 2 feet in diameter, and several fat river fish were stewed in it. The boat owner's cooking skills were average, but he was willing to use the ingredients, and the thick oil and red sauce made it taste unique. Su Fan picked up the wine pot and raised his head to take a sip. Hiss! The wine was like a ball of fire, scratching across his throat and causing pain. At this time of year, taking a sip would instantly make your whole body warm. This big pot of stewed fish was eaten up by Su Fan in a hurry, without even a fish bone left. Su Fan patted his stomach, only about 80% full. There was no way. He didn't want to take out the spiritual rice, and the little food on the boat was not enough for him to eat for 2 days. Fortunately, on the river, the boat owner could catch some river fish every day, otherwise he could only eat dried meat. Su Fan sat cross-legged and began to practice the 2nd level of Heavenly Demon Holy Body Art. The Tao seeds in his body spun loudly. Like a hot breath rolling into the stream, it ran rampant in his body. As the technique was operated over and over again, the manic evil spirit began to follow the trajectory of the technique, constantly refining his skin, flesh, fascia, bones, blood and marrow, as if licked by flames. The evil spirit entered the sea of consciousness and tempered his soul over and over again. The torment of the flesh, no matter how painful it was, could be endured. But the taste of the evil spirit destroying the soul was too painful. It was as if there were thousands of steel needles constantly stirring in his brain, and he wanted to die. I don't know how long it took before Su Fan slowly finished the exercise. At this moment, his body was almost numb, and his hands and feet were no longer sensitive. After a long break, Su Fan opened the game panel. Heavenly Demon Saint Body Art, 2nd level. 38 out of 200. The progress of cultivation is really damn fast, but the process is so damn torturous, it's like purgatory. No matter what, let's complete the 2nd level of cultivation first. After so much suffering, I must achieve the pure yang body. Su Fan sighed, and then took out a magic sword from the storage bag. Those few days in the demon tomb, he finally found a clue about this sword. Now this magic sword is getting darker and darker. The dense magic patterns on the sword body, although still not very clear, have revealed a lot. Su Fan guessed that it should be related to the killing of a large number of foreign evil demons. Because every time a foreign evil demon is killed, a faint light flashes on the magic sword. If it is really related to the evil demon, then this sword must be quite old. At least it can be traced back to the time when Ocean invaded the world of cultivation. Su Fan didn't take it seriously. Anyway, no matter how you look at it, this sword doesn't look like a magic weapon. Since it's easy to use, just keep using it. He put the magic sword into the storage bag, and took out a few more storage bags, all of which were seized from the people of Ocean sect. The largest 5-sided storage bag came from the leader of Ocean sect. There were more than 1,000 spirit stones, including more than 20 medium-grade spirit stones. There were only 2 magic tools, both of which were low-grade magic tools that Su Fan didn't like, and they were exchanged for spirit stones. There were more than a dozen bottles of elixirs, dozens of talismans, and some miscellaneous things left, none of which could catch Su Fan's eye. The other storage bags were even more shabby, with only more than 300 spirit stones. Pills, talismans, etc., can't be sold for much money in the market. The people of Ocean sect are just a bunch of poor people. Su Fan put everything into the storage bag, leaving only a demon statue. Although the golem's name could not be called out, from its appearance, it was known that it was an evil demon from outside the domain. The golem was only 3 inches tall, and it was hard to tell what it was made of. It was covered with bone armor and bone spurs, and its strange face was particularly weird, with its mouth open, revealing a pair of ferocious fangs. There were a few strange words engraved on the front, and the rest of the place was densely packed with strange patterns, similar to those on the altar of the demon tomb. It seemed to have been sealed for a long time and looked dull. Some places were covered with fine cracks, and the age must be thousands or tens of thousands of years. Su Fan thought about it and took out a magic sword from the storage bag. He put the magic sword on the golem, and something strange happened. Endless black smoke emanated from the golem's eyes, and it seemed to be wailing in a low and shrill voice. Wisps of black air continued to flow out, and were instantly swallowed up by the magic sword. Buzz! The golem shook violently, as if it had generated a trace of energy, and it intersected with a distant breath. Su Fan only felt as if there were a pair of eyes in the dark, watching him. But in just a moment, that feeling disappeared. Su Fan breathed a sigh of relief. It was too damn creepy. At this time, the magic sword in his hand seemed to tremble happily, and the light on the sword flickered several times, and then it calmed down. Su Fan glanced at the golem in his hand, which had cracked into several pieces. He stood up and walked out of the cabin, throwing the pieces of the golem into the Kinkang River. This Ocean sect should not be that simple, and may have some connection with the outer Ocean. Su Fan was about to enter the cabin when his eyes suddenly condensed. He turned around and saw several monks driving magic weapons in the sky in the distance, whistling towards him. Su Fan was a little nervous. Could they be coming for him? The figures of several black-robed monks crossed the river and rushed away. In this world, monks of both immortals and demons rarely appear in the mortal world. Judging from their clothes, they should be disciples of a demon sect. After a while, several figures whizzed through the air. Several waves of monks circled around for a while before leaving. Su Fan took a deep breath. These disciples of the demon sect must have sensed the breath of the golem just now. Don't be so reckless in the future. And that Ocean sect, if you meet him again in the future, you'd better stay away from him. Zhao State, Longjian County, Kyongho Prefecture. Not far from the dock, there was a crowd of people. Cargo ships loaded with salt, tea, grain and other goods gathered here. Not far away is an extremely magnificent ancient city, with a city wall more than 3 feet high standing on the river bank, which has experienced vicissitudes and is extremely solemn. The huge city gate stands tall, and there is a lot of traffic in front of the gate. Teams of strong guards set up checkpoints. A large number of convoys and horse teams gathered here and poured in, indicating the prosperity here. Su Fan jumped off the cargo ship and followed the crowd into the city. He wandered around the city, walked through the streets and alleys, and spent more than 2 hours eating at several well-known restaurants in Kyongho Mansion. He had several tables of banquets, which filled his stomach. Su Fan also found several well-known wine shops in the city and bought dozens of jars of strong liquor. As a city built on the river, it is still bustling even at night. There are many pedestrians and cars in the city. In the tea house by the river, the waiter diligently lifted the curtain and invited Su Fan in. Entering the tea house, a steaming hot air hits the face. There is a buzzing noise and chattering in the ears, which is very lively. Su Fan found a table, ordered some tea and snacks, and listened to the people around him chatting. He is about to return to the world of cultivation, and he doesn't know when he will return to the secular world. It will be difficult to find such a down-to-earth place in the future. At this time, Su Fan felt that someone next to him was looking at him. He turned his head calmly and saw an old man at the next table looking at him with a smile. Chapter 61 I can't write anymore. An old man was sitting at the table next to Su Fan. He looked to be in his 50s or 60s. He was wearing an earth-colored long gown with a black cotton-padded jacket on the outside. He had a mouthful of yellow teeth, rough skin, wrinkles on his face, and many ravines. Su Fan glanced at him calmly, and the old man smiled at Su Fan. Seeing the big yellow teeth, Su Fan almost vomited. What does this old bitch mean? Why is he looking at him for no reason? I don't even know you. And you're still smiling at him, are you sick? After a while, the old man came over and sat opposite Su Fan. He bowed to Su Fan and said with a smile, "Brother, are you a fellow worshipper of Luo Xiantian?" Su Fan was a little confused. He really had never worshipped before, but he had killed many. Seeing Su Fan's face full of shock, the other party leaned over and whispered, "Don't panic, fellow worshipper, the old man has practiced a secret technique and can smell smells that others can't smell." After the old man finished speaking, he smiled and picked up the snacks on Su Fan's dining table and stuffed them into his mouth. "Fellow Christian, your method of concealing your aura is not simple. Only an old man like me can tell. If it were someone else, I really wouldn't be able to tell." Su Fan thought for a moment and bowed to the other party. "How did you guess that?" The old man smiled and said, "Fellow Christian, have you just worshipped the gods these days?" Su Fan couldn't help but get nervous. He did come into contact with a golem, but it had been several days. Unexpectedly, he was still sensed by the old man's secret technique. "Fellow Christian, where are you from?" "Key State, Heian County." No wonder, several branches in Key State were picked by the true demon sect. Su Fan knew in his heart that the Sishu crossing of the demon tomb had attracted the attention of the true demon sect. "I was lucky to escape here, but I didn't expect to be recognized by fellow Christians as soon as I arrived at Kaianhu Mansion." The old man laughed, leaned forward again, and whispered, "To be honest with you, the evil bastards of Yinluo sect are now recruiting disciples of the divine religion in Zhao State." After he finished speaking, he looked around and whispered, "How about you join my Kaianhu branch? Then we can worship God and practice together. How about that?" Su Fan sneered in his heart. So he wanted to recruit people to join. Worship God and practice, what the hell? But it would not work to refuse at this time. First stabilize this old bastard and act according to circumstances. Thinking of this, Su Fan bowed to the old man. "Thank you in advance, brother." The old man waved his hand and laughed. His big yellow teeth almost fell to the ground. "I am the left altar master of Kaianhu Mansion of the divine religion, Jiang Wei." Su Fan hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings to the altar master, haha. We are all family from now on. I will help you settle down first, and take you to meet some brothers in the church tomorrow." The two got up and left the tea house, and Su Fan followed Jiang Wei through the alley. Su Fan wanted to kill this old bastard several times. But later, when he heard that he had been in Kangjiu City, Su Fan temporarily put away his murderous intention and began to ask him about some things in Kangjiu City. Moreover, this old man has some good secret techniques. Until now, even if he activated the Thunder Eyes, Su Fan was stunned and could not figure out the old bastard's background. This secret technique is much more powerful than the invisibility technique. And the secret technique that can smell the breath of the golem must be obtained at all costs. Su Fan followed Jiang Wei to a house in the city. The house is not big, with 2 entrances, but the location is very quiet, hidden in a small alley in the city. The two came to the door of a house in the inner courtyard, and Jiang Wei turned around and pointed at Su Fan. "Fellow believer, stay here first, and I will introduce you to other believers in the branch tomorrow." Su Fan resisted the urge to take action, smiled and bowed, saying, "Then I will rely on the altar master from now on." Jiang Wei smiled, and the aura on his body instantly turned into the 6th level of key training. Su Fan also used the hidden breath technique, but he did not fully release it, and only stayed at the 4th level of key training. The two entered the house. Jiang Wei brewed a pot of tea and poured a cup for Su Fan. Fellow church member, how many brothers from the branch in Heian County have escaped? Su Fan almost laughed out loud. How the hell do I know? But from the other party's tone, it seems that he does not know the situation of the Luotian sect in Heian County. I don't know either. I was guarding the outer perimeter of the demon tomb at that time, and I was lucky to escape with my life. Jiang Wei listened and nodded with a gloomy face. Fellow church members join my Kaionho branch, but they must also be recognized by the fellow church members in the branch. Su Fan was a little confused after hearing this. What did this mean? Jiang Wei smiled and said, fellow church members, follow me. Su Fan followed the old man to the backyard with a confused face, and saw Jiang Wei open the basement and lead him in. Jiang Wei took Su Fan to a dungeon, where a man was tied up. He was covered in blood, with disheveled hair, and lowered his head. Hearing the door open, the man raised his head and stared at Jiang Wei. If he hadn't had something stuffed in his mouth, he might have cursed. Su Fan understood at that time that this old bitch wanted to show his loyalty. Fellow believer, this man is a disciple of the Yinluo sect. As long as you kill him, you can immediately join my Kaionho branch. Su Fan smiled and said, damn it. His eyes flashed with lightning, and Jiang Wei was stunned there, as if he was possessed by an evil spirit. The man in the dungeon was also confused. Su Fan glanced at him, ignored him, and carried Jiang Wei out of the dungeon. After a while, Su Fan asked what he wanted to know. He had already done this very skillfully by breaking the old bitch's neck, collecting the soul and destroying the corpse. Su Fan came to the secret room in the art and found what he wanted. According to Jiang Wei's account, the leader of the Kaionho branch led the other people in the branch to a demon tomb, preparing to summon the evil demon there. Su Fan was relieved now. The main force of Luotian sect and Kaionho mansion was not in the city, so he had plenty of time to leave. He slept soundly in the house. The next morning, Su Fan got up, had breakfast, and waited in the house. Several people came to the door one after another, and Su Fan easily dealt with them. Then he packed up and turned around to leave the house. Just as he was about to go out, he suddenly remembered the man in the dungeon. Su Fan hesitated for a moment and felt that he should let Yinluo sect know about the demon tomb. Luotian sect was so weird. If there was any evil way to find him again, he would not be able to rest. It would be better to let Yinluo sect destroy them and put an end to it. Thinking of this, Su Fan turned to the dungeon, opened the door, and untied the man. The leader of the Kaionho branch of Luotian sect took people to Qingxi town and prepared to summon evil demons in the demon tomb there. I have already dealt with the people of Luotian sect in the city. You can take care of yourself. After Su Fan finished speaking, he turned around and left without wasting time. Fellow Taoist, please stay. Su Fan turned around, waved his hand, and said with a smile, I just happened to be here, and I did it by chance. I didn't save you on purpose, but I just don't want to see this evil cult doing evil and harming the people. After he finished speaking, he didn't give the other party a chance to speak, and hurriedly left the yard. Su Fan couldn't make up any more. If he didn't leave, he would be exposed. Thanks to Twongayu 05, Chorus, Tadeo Yixin, Zaire, Wang Wen Sande, Miami, Banayu JM, Zengayu Tongying, Holiday Coffee, Book Friends 201708262005200614, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Scent Smelling Technique and Turtle Breathing Technique. Su Fan left Kaionho City and drove the Yinfeng boat directly to the north. According to Jiang Wei, there is a market of a cultivation family a few hundred miles away, and Su Fan plans to stay there for 2 days. Gu Qinghun should have spread the news. Recently, Yinluo sect has also sent a large number of disciples to search for Luotian sect in various parts of Zhao state. It should be that the entire Western Wilderness Demon sect is fighting against the power of Luotian sect. This Luotian sect is indeed very evil. In less than 2 years, it has spread all over the Western Wilderness. Moreover, The helmsmen and altar masters of various places were previously some evil cultivators and casual cultivators with poor qualifications. Later, they were inexplicably taught by others in their dreams to practice the skills of Luotian sect. As long as you are willing to worship the evil god, the speed of practice is very fast. Many people who were originally in the middle stage of key training broke through to the late stage of key training in less than 2 years, and they are almost catching up with the heavenly spirit roots. Of course, this kind of Shinto practice is not reliable at all. It is purely forcing things to grow. Not to mention the unstable foundation. Once you practice, the road ahead will be cut off, and you will never be able to break through the foundation building stage in this life. But for the casual cultivators with poor qualifications, that doesn't matter. Because the Luotian sect has developed too fast, the branches in various places don't even know each other. Therefore, the various demon sects can only sweep the branches in various places, and can't catch the high-level leaders of the Luotian sect at all, because no one has ever seen them. Moreover, in the dream, not only the law is taught, but also the rune formation unique to the Great Luotian is taught, which is a bit scary. Now the various demon sects in the western wilderness are like crazy, searching for the whereabouts of the Luotian sect everywhere, and would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let one go. At this time, Su Fan dare not touch this bad luck, so he should find a place to stay for a few days and see what happens. Tuoshanfang was established by a foundation-building family in Zhao State. Relying on the small spiritual vein of Tuoshan, after hundreds of years of cultivation, a foundation was established. When Su Fan arrived here, it was already evening. Walking into a smoky jungle, the rich spiritual energy that hid his face made every pore on Su Fan's body cheer. For nearly a year, Su Fan has been staying in the mortal world and has almost forgotten this feeling. The market is not big, with only a small street of several hundred meters. Although it is small, it has everything. There are many shops on both sides of the street. Although they are all small shops, they sell everything. Although there are not many casual cultivators nearby, the location is not bad, and it is considered to be quite popular on weekdays. Tuition is only a small spiritual vein, but the concentration of spiritual energy in the market is not low at all. Su Fan rented a room in the market for 5 spiritual stones a month. The house is not big, only about 10 square meters. The furnishings can no longer be described as simple. There is nothing except a kang. This is not bad. What do you want, a bicycle? Su Fan sat cross-legged on the kang and took out Jiang Wei's storage bag, which was 5 square meters in size. This old bitch has a secret room in his house. If Su Fan did not have the thunder eyes after the fusion, he really couldn't find that place. There are not only 2 secret techniques in the secret room, but also the spiritual stones and magic tools he embezzled from the sect. Although there are only more than 1,000 low-grade spiritual stones and several magic tools that Su Fan does not like, grasshoppers are also meat. The Ocean sect was established too recently, and the followers are all poor. Jiang Wei is already very talented to have made so much money in such a short time. Another black storage bag with a sex mark on it belongs to the Yinluo sect disciple in the dungeon. It was also taken by Jiang Wei and placed in the secret room. Although the person was released, the storage bag would definitely not be returned. If Su Fan was not afraid that the people from the Luotian sect and Qianhu mansion would cause trouble for him, he would not even care about the Yinluo sect disciple and let him fend for himself. This Yinluo sect member is an outer disciple, and he only has 2 storage bags. There are more than 500 spirit stones, 3 magic tools, talismans, elixirs, and other things in it, which Su Fan doesn't like. However, 2 magic jade slips and several books made Su Fan quite satisfied. A heritage jade slip records several low and medium grade magic spells. Although most of them are not used for the time being, they are the inheritance of the sect after all, and are relatively precious. A jade slip of inheritance recorded a technique called Yin Mingju, which only had the first 3 levels and was the entry-level technique for Yinluo sect disciples. This technique was of no use to Su Fan, and it only had the first 3 levels, but if he had the chance to sell it, he could sell it for a high price. Several books were borrowed by the disciple from the sect's Dharma Hall. There were cultivation insights and experiences left by the sect's predecessors, the customs and practices of the world of cultivation, and a book introducing the common sense of the world of cultivation in various parts of the western wilderness. These were absolutely priceless treasures for Su Fan. The sect had a rich heritage, so even an outer disciple could borrow so many precious books from the Dharma Hall. The book that surprised him the most was The Inheritance of Yin Luo Sect's Talismans. Although there were only a dozen middle and low-grade talismans in the book, it was enough for Su Fan. He was worried about going to the demon sect area and having no way to make a living, and this book was a timely help. These external objects were not important to Su Fan. The key was still the two secret techniques. One is called Smell the Scent technique, which is a very niche secret technique. It is relatively easy to get started, but it is the kind that is easy to learn but difficult to master. The other is called Turtle Breathing Method, which is a very simple secret technique, but it takes some time to perform and cancel. Moreover, once the secret technique is activated, it is really necessary to cut off one's own spiritual energy. If a sneak attack occurs, it may die before the secret technique is cancelled. This is not a worry for Su Fan. He is a physical cultivator. Even if he has no spiritual energy for the time being, he can withstand a few sneak attacks. Su Fan is very satisfied with these two secret techniques and began to practice Smell the Scent technique excitedly. It is really quick to get started, but after Su Fan successfully performed it, the various smells that came to his nose made Su Fan frown. This secret technique is really awesome, but there is one bad thing. After the secret technique is performed, all smells will be amplified several times. Forget the fragrance, all kinds of odors will also increase exponentially. Who can bear this? Fortunately, the secret technique can be cancelled quickly, so it can be tolerated. The turtle breathing method has no disadvantages for Su Fan except that it is slow to perform and remove. If he had this secret method before, Gu Qinghuan would not be able to find his trace at all. In the following days, Su Fan lived into Shinfang. He returned to his previous state, busy and fulfilled, and spent every day in intense practice. He practiced Hunyuan Guang twice in the morning and evening, the second level of Heavenly Demon Saint Body Art in the morning, and Ghost Demon Forging God Art in the afternoon. The rest of the time, he practiced sword, boxing, drawing talismans and brushing the proficiency of spells. Every few days, Su Fan would set up a stall in the market to sell talismans for half a day. It was not to earn a few spirit stones, but to inquire about the news from all over the western wilderness. The monks coming and going from the south and the north would bring their recent sights and experiences to the market. More than half a month later, Su Fan was setting up a stall in the market to sell talismans. A dozen monks wearing Yin Luo sect robes walked into the market. Dozens of family members who followed them began to disperse and blocked all exits of the market. They also drove all the casual cultivators in the house to the street. A dozen Yin Luo sect disciples began to hold magic tools and test everyone's aura one by one. After so many days, Su Fan no longer had the aura of the golem, so he passed the test easily. Catch him, don't let them run away. Su Fan had just finished testing his aura when he heard a noise in the distance. Two monks dressed as casual cultivators were desperately running towards the outside of the market, but they didn't run far before they were drowned in the attack of magic tools and talismans. Chapter 63 You Really Don't Remember Me. In the early morning, the morning sun rose, and a soft and weak ray of early sun emerged. The golden morning light shone through the gaps in the clouds, and the edge of the light spread from the earth, wrapping up the distant foothills. Su Fan sat cross-legged on the small gathering spirit formation, practicing Hunyuan Gong. After 9 turns of Gong, he slowly opened his eyes and smiled with satisfaction. Open the game panel, Realm, Key Training Level 5. 95 out of 100. In just over a month, he can complete the realm and break through to the 6th level of key training. After a few more years of hard practice, breaking through to the late stage of key training can increase his lifespan. Key training is perfect, which means a lifespan of 200 years. The extremely yin body is really awesome. No wonder so many cultivators practice the Huan Dao. Su Fan couldn't help but feel a surge of emotions when he thought of the charming scene under him when he just woke up. He quickly took a deep breath and suppressed the emotions in his heart. Calming the mind and calming the breath are not unheard of. But, it's really white. After all, as a child who grew up under the red flag and in a social environment with a Confucian atmosphere, he has always despised his behavior of pulling out the rope and running away. Damn it, let him be a scumbag, who asked you to hunt me down. However, Gu Qinghuan suffered such a big loss, and it seems that he didn't look for him in a big way. After Su Fan came out of the demon tomb, he changed his appearance and body shape, and he didn't have the ghost face tattoo. In addition to the triple blessing of ethereal method, hidden breath technique and invisibility talisman, it is impossible to find him again. Su Fan left the house, came to the street of Fangxi, and went to a restaurant. The restaurant is very simple, just a shed, and then put a few tables and chairs, without even a fence, and it was drafty everywhere. There were a lot of people in the morning, and the owner, Old Yu, was busy and sweating. Su Fan found an empty table and sat down, and greeted Old Yu. Old Yu, bring the rice. Okay, Old Yu replied, and brought a large porcelain bowl of steamed rice over and placed it on his table. The monks around all looked at Su Fan in confusion. This guy is so skinny, how can he eat so much? This big bowl of rice is enough for them to eat for several days. Su Fan didn't care about the strange looks around him. His physical body advanced again, and his appetite increased again. Now he was even afraid of eating. He picked up a spoon and stirred the bowl, mixing the diced meat, green beans, diced mushrooms and vegetable leaves together. Let the ingredients, soup and spiritual rice fully blend. The method is similar to the clay pot rice in Guangzhou in the previous life. This was specially ordered by Su Fan, and he taught Old Yu how to make it. Every day at mealtime, he helped him steam such a large bowl in advance. He ate this for 3 meals a day. Old Guan, is the Yingluo sect still setting up checkpoints everywhere? Not only do they set up checkpoints, but they also have patrols everywhere. If you are stopped by them, you will definitely be in trouble. I was stopped once last month, and they also searched my storage bag. They are too much, Alice. It's all because of this evil cult. We, the independent cultivators, have been implicated. Su Fan was eating spiritual rice while listening to the discussions of the people around him. It seems that I have to stay here for a while and wait until the storm is over. Su Fan has 2 10-sided storage bags on him. If he encounters a vicious disciple of the demon sect who falsely accuses him of being an evil cultivator, he can only fight back. If he offends the Yinluo sect and Zhao state, the consequences can be imagined. Damn, the disciples of the sect are awesome. If it weren't for the war in Yangzhou, he would have had a chance to join the sect. Unfortunately, there is no hope in the past few years. Even if the immortal demon war is over, it is not so easy to return to Yangzhou. After breakfast, Su Fan came to the street of Fangxi, spread a piece of animal skin, and put talismans and some miscellaneous things on it. He took out a stool and sat on it to read quietly. At this time, a middle-aged casual cultivator came over and set up a stall next to him. Old Su, you came out early today, I just got here too. Su Fan finished speaking and asked the other party. Old Li, it is said that Yangzhou is quite lively, isn't it? The true demon sect of Qi has almost come out in full force, and many people from the Yinluo sect of Zhao have also gone. Then how can we take Yangzhou this time? Take it down? Several immortal sects in the Central Plains have mixed in. This time, it won't be quiet unless we fight for a few years. Su Fan sighed in his heart. He couldn't go back these years, so he might as well stay in the territory of the demon sect. The two were chatting when they saw a young man coming to Su Fan's stall. The other party was in his early 20s and had the 4th level of Qi training. He was wearing the standard black robe of Yinluo sect. He was not tall and had an ordinary appearance. His eyes were as black as ink and his eyebrows were full of childishness. Oldie, who came over to chat, saw that the other party was a disciple of Yinluo sect and quickly moved back. Su Fan glanced at the other party and felt that he looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen him before. Dao, would you like to buy a talisman? The other party looked at Su Fan and smiled honestly. You really don't remember me? Su Fan frowned when he heard it. How the hell do I know who you are? In Kaionho Mansion, hearing this, Su Fan immediately remembered who this person was. It was the Yinluo sect disciple he rescued from the dungeon in Kaionho Mansion. Before the other party finished speaking, Su Fan waved his hand and interrupted him. He couldn't let him continue. Why are you here? The kid looked very excited and squatted directly in front of Su Fan's stall. I have made great contributions this time. The sect not only rewards me, but also allows me to enter the inner sect. I haven't. Su Fan waved his hand quickly to stop him from continuing, and changed the subject again. Congratulations, you have entered the inner sect at such a young age. You have a bright future. I have been looking for you. I really didn't expect to meet you here. If it weren't for, seeing Su Fan interrupting him again, this kid knew what was going on even if he was stupid. He glanced at Lao He who was eavesdropping on their conversation, and turned to look at Su Fan again. Seeing Su Fan nodded slightly, he chuckled. Let's go. I'll treat you to dinner. Su Fan smiled bitterly and could only nod helplessly. If this kid stayed here any longer, Who knows what he would say? He packed up his stall and followed the other party to the only restaurant in Tuashanfang. It is called a restaurant, but it is actually a two-story restaurant. The first floor is open for seating, and the upstairs is simply divided into private rooms with bamboo curtains. Because most of the customers are casual cultivators, they only sell some simple snacks, and they don't even have spiritual wine. Su Fan found that this kid is a chatterbox. He kept talking all the way, and his mouth was never idle. Su Fan doesn't talk much, but occasionally he asks a question casually, which can elicit a lot of nonsense from the other party. After all, he is young, and Su Fan only needs a few words to understand the situation of this kid thoroughly. Thanks to Twagayu 05, Zaire, the third generation of online literature, Kwasai 637, Banayu JM, Zengayu Tongying, Holiday Coffee, The Supreme Person Ignores Everything, Book Friend 201708262005200614, Book Friend 201910041111555328, all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Laobu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 64, How ambitious is this kid? This kid's name is Liu He, and his father used to be an outer disciple of Yinluo sect. He has 3 spiritual roots and average qualifications. He used to be a nobody in the sect. Fortunately, his father had been in the outer sect for decades and arranged a position for him in the Foreign Affairs Hall through his connections. It was easy and profitable, and he lived a carefree life. This time, the sect sent people to clean up the evil cult in Zhao State. I don't know what he was thinking. He went down the mountain without telling his father, wanting to see the world. Who knew that not long after he went down the mountain, he was tricked by the people of Luotian sect. Originally thought he was dead this time, but unexpectedly, it was a blessing in disguise, and he made a great contribution and was selected into the inner sect as an exception. Although Liu He didn't say anything, Su Fan still understood his current situation from his words. Because he was promoted to the inner sect as an exception, the people in the outer sect before, whether out of jealousy or envy, all thought he was lucky. The senior brothers and sisters in the inner sect looked down on him even more. This time, he and several fellow disciples were stationed in Tuashanfang. He clearly felt the alienation and exclusion from others. He was just a young man in his early 20s. How could he have such an experience? Although he was a nobody before, he always had friends around him. But now, after so many days, Liu He doesn't even have anyone to talk to. Seeing his state, he was also very distressed. The two came to the restaurant and found a private room. Liu He ordered a table of dishes, raised his glass, and toasted Su Fan. "Brother, thank you for saving me. This glass of toast to you," I said. "It was just a matter of convenience. You don't have to thank me." Su Fan really didn't want to have anything to do with him, but he didn't know what to say. Liu He drank the glass of wine, and he was a little excited. He kept toasting, and it was obviously a little too much. Those days when I was locked up in the dungeon, I really thought I would die. As he spoke, his eyes turned red, and he couldn't speak anymore because of sobs, so he raised his glass and drank it. He entered the sect at a young age. Under the care of his father, he had never seen any storms or experienced the warmth and coldness of human nature. After a near-death experience, he thought his luck would turn, but he was rejected by his fellow disciples again. How old is he? He has experienced so much all of a sudden, and he doesn't even have anyone to talk to. Su Fan saw that he was obviously drinking by himself. Drink slowly, it's all over. Maybe he was too depressed recently. Today, he finally had someone to talk to, and he started talking all of a sudden. Su Fan was upset, but he couldn't leave, so he could only listen to his complaints. It wasn't until the evening that the two left the tavern. Su Fan looked at Liu He staggering back and couldn't help sighing in his heart. It's better to do something else than waste half a day. He originally thought that the two would have nothing to do with each other from then on, but he didn't expect that Liu He would come to him again a few days later. Su Fan was drawing talismans when he heard someone knocking on the door outside. He went out and saw Liu He standing outside the door, looking at him and laughing. Su Fan didn't expect that he could find this place. What could he say? He had to let this kid in. "Brother, are you a talisman master? You drew all these?" Su Fan nodded, ignored him, and continued to draw talismans. Liu He was watching with envy on his face. He suddenly remembered something and took out a book from his storage bag. "Brother, take a look at this book. Can you use it?" Su Fan took it and looked at it. and was stunned. This is an ancient book called Ancient Demonic Talisman Scripture, which records more than a dozen magic talismans. Judging from the material of the ancient book and the handwriting inside, it should be a talisman inheritance of a demon sect from a long time ago. Su Fan flipped through the ancient book and looked up at Liu He. How conceited this kid is, he just showed this ancient book to others casually. Where did you get this book? My father gave it to me. I'm not a material for a talisman master. You can take it. Although Liu He said it casually, Su Fan couldn't accept it. This favor was too big. How about this? Lend me this book for a few days, I'll study it. Liu He chuckled and said, okay, I'll leave it here for you, you can read it as long as you want. After he finished speaking, he suddenly slapped his forehead. By the way, I forgot to tell you yesterday. When I reported to the sect, I told you that you rescued me. Tomorrow I will take you to see Elder Hu in the sect. Su Fan quickly waved his hand to refuse. What a joke. Brother, don't say that I saved you. Why? I was the one who saved you. If it weren't for you, if the cult summoned the Golden Core Demon, do you know how many people in Zhao would die? Brother, I'm just a casual cultivator. If the cult knew that I ruined their business, would I still have a way to live? What a joke. You have the sect to protect you by then. What the hell should I do? Liu He was stunned. He scratched his head. Then you can also join the Yinluo sect. Su Fan was so angry that he laughed. What was he thinking about asking me to join the demon sect? Brother, I have 4 spiritual roots. I am already this age. Which sect would want me? Every year, Yinluo sect recruits some casual cultivators to join the outer sect. As long as they are strong in combat, regardless of qualifications, they can enter the sect as long as they break through the secret realm of the sect. Su Fan was also a little surprised when he heard this. He didn't expect that the demon sect would have such a saying. The secret realm is not easy to pass through. Many people must have died. Brother, you are so strong, it will be no problem to break through the secret realm. Su Fan knew that it must not be that simple. Disciples who enter in this way are different from you. Liu He nodded and said, disciples who enter in through the secret realm are generally placed outside the sect, but other treatments are the same as us. Su Fan sneered in his heart. He knew that there were not so many good things. It is estimated that many disciples of the demon sect in the battlefield of Yangzhou are of this kind of background. Liu He chuckled and said, it's not that there is no way. My father has been in the outer sect for decades. As long as you spend some spirit stones, I can find you a better place. What good places are there? You can go to the medicine garden, spirit stone mine, spirit field and other relatively leisurely places instead of going to the outer sect. Su Fan shook his head and gave up. He still wanted to go to the Yuking sect in Ganzhou, where he could often meet old Yi. Forget it, I'd better be a casual cultivator. I'm free and easy. What's wrong with that? Liu He was anxious and kept tempting Su Fan. How can it be the same? Our Yinluo sect is also a giant sect, with a heritage of nearly 10,000 years. There are tens of thousands of ancient books in the Dharma storage hall, and the Dharma transmission hall is full of foundation building predecessors who are responsible for preaching and answering questions. Can casual cultivators compare? After listening to Liu He's words, Su Fan was somewhat fascinated. Sects are different. Tens of thousands of ancient books, and foundation building predecessors preaching and answering questions, how can this be compared? However, Su Fan was still a little unwilling to let him join the demon sect. It's not that he rejects the magic path. After all, the physical cultivation method he practices is inherited from the demon sect. He plays tricks and raises zombies. He is no different from the demon cultivators. It's just that old Yi has arranged everything for him, but he joined the demon sect. It's not reasonable. Brother, you can stay here for a year or two. When the time comes, ask my father to help you transfer back to the sect. As long as there are spirit stones, there is nothing you can't do. Su Fan curled his lips. That's your father, not my father. But he was really tempted. He would definitely not be able to go back to Yangzhou within a few years. Even if the war is over, it would be a hassle to go back. And from what old Yi said, Yuking sect must be the same as Shaoyang sect. It is probably just a small sect in the foundation building stage. Yinluo sect is different. It is a golden elixir sect with a 10,000-year inheritance. The temptation to him is not ordinary. Chapter 65 Kangjiu City. Although Su Fan was tempted, he finally gave up the idea. He believed that Liu He was really grateful to him, and this kid was also very kind. Maybe because he was used to being a nobody in the sect, and coupled with the alienation of his fellow brothers, Liu He did not show the sense of superiority of other disciples. But Liu He said so much, but he did not leave his father. He is a heartless person, but his father is not. Even if he is a little white flower, he will become a veteran after decades of working in the outer sect. Why do you ask others to help you? This doesn't sound reliable. Let's go to Kangjiu City to see the situation first, and try to find a way to return to Yangzhou. Brother, why are you staying here? Su Fan was almost amused by your Yinluo sect. I want to go to Kangjiu City, but now the Yinluo sect is investigating cults all over Zhao State. How dare I, a casual cultivator, go around? Liu He was excited when he heard it. You want to go to Kangjiu City? Great. I just want to go back these days. You can go with me. We can be companions. Su Fan glanced at Liu He and thought that this was also a solution. You can take me with you. There won't be any trouble, will there? Liu He was afraid that Su Fan would not believe him, so he patted his chest and promised. What's the trouble? I am an inner disciple now. Who dares to stop me? After Liu He left, Su Fan picked up the ancient demonic talisman scripture and started reading it. This ancient book was obviously from a regular sect and was a talisman scripture used for inheritance. There are 6 kinds of medium-grade magic talismans recorded in it, namely the Bone Talisman, the Soul-Binding Talisman, the Bloodthirsty Talisman, the Blood Demon Talisman, the Fierce Ghost Talisman, and the Zuanine Arrow Talisman. There are also 4 kinds of high-grade magic talismans, namely the Decay Black Flame Talisman, the Netherworld Poisonous Fire Talisman, the 9 Netherworld Magic Flame Talisman, and the Bloody Divine Light Talisman. The most precious in this ancient book are these 4 high-grade magic talismans. The power of each talisman should not be underestimated. They are very sinister and vicious, making people hard to guard against. Unfortunately, these 4 talismans are very difficult to make. It is not enough to rely on talisman ink and talisman skin alone. A lot of auxiliary materials are also needed, and the materials are very difficult to find. Don't worry about it, just look for it slowly. This ancient book should have been passed down for a long time. After all kinds of natural treasures were everywhere in the past. At least now no demon sect will use such precious materials to make talismans. The 6 medium-grade talismans are also good. If you can master them, at least you will have the foundation for survival in Kangjiu City. A few days later, Su Fan and Liu He left to Ashenfang. It is thousands of miles away from Kangjiu City, but for cultivators, it only takes a few days to control the magic weapon. The Kangjiu Mountains stretch for tens of thousands of miles, with high mountains and deep forests, clouds and mist, and a large number of spiritual veins hidden underground. Especially in several dangerous places, poisonous insects and monsters are everywhere, and there are also various extremely precious exotic flowers and plants. Su Fan and Liu He drove the magic weapon all the way north. A few days later, the two finally arrived at the Kangjiu Mountains, and Liu He pointed to the distance. Brother, that's Kangjiu City. Su Fan looked in the direction of his finger and could vaguely see the outline of a city, where the clouds and mists were lingering, and the majestic city was sometimes visible and sometimes invisible. It was really an extremely magnificent city of cultivation. Liu He pointed to the endless giant peaks in the distance. The mountain gate of our Yinluo sect is right there. Su Fan looked at the majestic and strange mountains and peaks standing in the clouds with a face full of longing. From a distance, it looked like it was floating on the clouds. This is the holy land of the immortals. Unlike Huxun City, Kangjiu City was built on a giant peak, and thousands of palaces were stacked up with a mountain. The further you go, the more frequent the monks are coming and going, and the magic tools are flying in the air, and the whistling sounds are coming and going, which is extremely lively. There are also various flying boats, shuttling back and forth in the air, constantly entering and exiting various airports in the mountain city. Su Fan and Liu He landed on a square outside the city, and followed the crowd to a road, walking towards the gate of Kangjiu City. When they entered the city, Su Fan intuitively felt a strong spiritual energy coming towards him. Even if he used a small gathering spirit formation into Ashenfang, he could not condense such a strong spiritual energy. The roads in Kangjiu City are also well connected, with tall buildings one after another, and the streets are extremely lively. Brother, I will help you settle down first, the place is ready. Su Fan subconsciously wanted to refuse, but after thinking about it, he agreed to stay for one night and go out to find a house tomorrow. Cultivators are not allowed to fly in the city, but there are various bone boats for people to ride, And the price is not expensive, ranging from dozens of magic coins each time. These bone boats are no different from taxis in the previous life, and they are also a livelihood for casual cultivators in the city. He led Su Fan to take a bone boat and came to the outside of her house. The house is not big, with only a small courtyard and 3 main rooms. It was an industry purchased by Liu He's father back then. Su Fan knew that owning such a courtyard in Kangjiu City, where every inch of land is worth a lot of money, was worth a lot of spirit stones. In the evening, Liu He wanted to invite Su Fan to dinner, but he declined. Su Fan walked around the city alone, asking about house rental information and the prices of various cultivation houses and shops. Su Fan did not return to the courtyard until it was completely dark. After a day of wandering, he felt that it was not easy to live in Kangjiu City. The prices here are high, and any bowl of spiritual noodles costs dozens of magic money. Houses are even more expensive, let alone buying a house. He can't afford it at all. With the 18,000 spirit stones in Su Fan's hand, he could buy a place as big as a toilet. Even in the lower city where the spiritual energy is the thinnest, renting a cramped and narrow mezzanine costs dozens of spirit stones every month. There are many independent cultivators in the city, and it is common to see several dozen people squeezed into one mezzanine. There are also scattered stalls in the city, divided into the East Market and the West Market. And the stall fee alone costs 5 spirit stones every day. Not only that, the prices in the shops in the city are even more outrageous. The prices of elixirs and talismans are also extremely expensive. Any low-grade magic weapon is more than twice as expensive as Tuashanfang. Kangjiu City is indeed extremely prosperous, but it is much more difficult to survive here than to be a migrant worker in Beijing. Su Fan felt that he had chosen the wrong place. This place is not suitable for him at all. The next day, Liu He came just after Su Fan got up. This time he was not alone. Behind him was a bloated old man who looked to be in his 50s and had the 8th level of key training. He had an ordinary face, a small mustache, and a navy blue robe made of expensive fabrics, which looked very impressive. When the other party saw Su Fan, he hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. "Thank you, fellow Taoist, for saving my son's life." Su Fan bowed in return and smiled. "It was just a matter of convenience." "Senior, I am so embarrassed." After entering the house, the old man chatted with Su Fan for some polite words and kept thanking Su Fan. This old man is Liu He's father, named Liu Quan. Because he has no hope of breaking through, he is now working for the sect in Kangjiu City. Thanks to the recommendation votes from the Big Eyes Fangjia Coffee, Wang Winsonday, Hello 637, Banayu JM, Zhengayu Tongying, Zhe Shuiao 442345, Shuiao 201708262005206114, and Shuiao 2022010622571037. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 66 Wherever my heart is at peace is my hometown. Liu Quan made some polite remarks and got down to business. I heard from Liu He that if you want to join the Yinluo sect, I will help you. You can choose a simple secret realm at that time. If you pass it, I will try to arrange it near the sect. Seeing that Su Fan did not express his opinion, he continued. In the past, we recruited every few years. Last year's Yongzhou Immortal Demon War, and the recent rampant cult in Zhao State, the sect is short of manpower outside. It is estimated that it will be advanced to the beginning of next year. At this point, Liu Quan looked at Su Fan again. Of course, if you don't want to join the sect, I can also give you a sum of spirit stones. What do you think? Su Fan understood that Liu Quan meant that he helped you this time, so don't go to my son for no reason in the future. Now that Liu He is an inner disciple, Liu Quan certainly hopes that his son will have a better future. What's the matter with hanging out with an outer disciple who came from a casual cultivator every day? If it were a few days ago, Su Fan would definitely take the spirit stones and leave. But after seeing the prices in Kangjiu City last night, Su Fan hesitated. If he could really enter the Yinluo sect, find a quiet place, and hang out for a few years, it would be nice. The most important thing is that the Dharma Storage Hall and Dharma Transmission Hall of the Yinluo sect are the places Su Fan yearns for the most. Even with a game panel, it is difficult for one person to practice. He has been hanging out with old Yi for a few months and feels that he has benefited a lot, not to mention the teachings of the senior who has built a foundation in the Dharma Transmission Hall. Thinking of this, Su Fan smiled and said, "Can I wait for a few days before replying?" Liu Quan listened and laughed. "It doesn't matter. When you have thought it through, just tell Liu He." After he said that, he stood up and said goodbye, and left with Liu He. After sending the father and son out of the yard, Su Fan sighed as he looked at their backs. He was a little unwilling, but also a little looking forward to it. He really didn't know how to choose. "Let's wait and see, and we'll talk about it in 2 days." The next day, Su Fan continued to wander around Kangjiu City, and specifically asked people about the Yinluo sect's recruitment of casual practitioners. When he was eating in several restaurants, he specifically asked the waiters in the store, and they said something similar to what Liu Quan said. One of the guys said he had connections in the outer sect and even quoted the price. After asking around, Su Fan felt relieved. It seems that every time the Yinluo sect recruits independent cultivators, there is really something fishy. Not only that, when Su Fan was looking for a house, he also found out a piece of information. There are many small towns and markets outside Kangjiu City, all of which are the territories of the cultivation families affiliated with the Yinluo sect. It is much cheaper to rent a house there than in the city. After hearing this news, Su Fan bought a map of Kangjiu City in the city and selected several places. In the early morning of early autumn, the fresh air permeated the fields, and the branches and leaves of the mountains were green and swaying with the breeze. Coming out of the city, it took an hour to control the magic weapon, and Su Fan came to Honglanfang in the northwest of Kangjiu City. This is the territory of the Wang family, a foundation-building cultivation family. The family has been affiliated with the Yinluo sect for many generations. The disciples with excellent qualifications in the family are also in the Yinluo sect. The entire family has a close connection with the sect surrounded by mountains. The scenery here is extremely beautiful. The endless mountains can vaguely see the hazy shadows of tall mountains. The clouds and mist are erratic, like a fairyland on earth. Su Fan landed in front of a bamboo forest, which was filled with smoke. He walked into the bamboo forest, and suddenly appeared on a neat bluestone street. The spiritual energy here is not as good as that of Kangjiu City, but it is much richer than Tuoshanfang. There are buildings of different sizes on both sides of the street, including 2-story attics and simple stone houses. People come and go on the bluestone street, and walk into the shops on both sides of the street from time to time, which is very lively. There are stalls of casual cultivators everywhere on the street, displaying elixirs, spiritual medicines, ores, spiritual medicine seeds, talisman paper, magic tools, classics, and everything. There are also all kinds of messy things, such as broken magic tools, fragments of various ancient books, strange ores, and rusty alchemy furnaces. Su Fan knew that 9 out of 9 of them were fake and deceptive. I don't know why, but looking at the bustling streets and the noisy flow of people, Su Fan felt much more comfortable. The atmosphere of the towns and villages here is more down to earth. In the past 2 days in Kangjiu City, the prosperity and hustle and bustle in the city made him feel very depressed. When he came here, all the depression disappeared in an instant. Su Fan couldn't help but lament that he had lived 2 lives and he still hadn't changed. After walking on the street for a while, he had a meal in a restaurant on the street and talked to the owner about renting a house in Fangxi. The owner was quite enthusiastic and sent the waiter to take him to the place to rent a house in Fangxi. The house Su Fan chose was in the alley of Fangxi, with a small courtyard and 3 main rooms on the north side. The courtyard was also spacious, with a toilet in the southwest corner and a stone table in the courtyard. A kitchen was built by several long wood and bamboo strips next to the south wall, with a stove and other things. A large water tank was placed next to the stove, and some firewood was piled on the ground. The 3 main rooms all have brick walls and tiled roofs. There are windows on one side of the hall for lighting. The furniture in the house is ready-made. Although the house is uninhabited, it is clean everywhere. The alley outside is not far from the main street. There are 40 or 50 courtyards. A ditch is dug outside the wall of each courtyard to prevent waterlogging. The street is a dirt road filled with small pieces of bluestone slabs. Some courtyards have also been converted into stores and small shops. Most of them sell food, fruits and vegetables, clothes and hats, and make a living, mainly targeting nearby tenants. It is really cheap. A house with a private door and courtyard only rents 30 spirit stones per month. Su Fan didn't even think about it and rented it for half a year. After completing the formalities, Su Fan couldn't wait to come to the small courtyard and stood in the courtyard with emotion. After wandering outside for nearly a year, I finally settled down. This place is my hometown. Su Fan walked into the house. There was no need to clean up the 3 main rooms. He could move in with his luggage. The 2 rooms on the left and right were the bedroom and the practice room respectively. The hall was originally used to entertain guests. Since no one comes anyway, let's use it as a restaurant. Su Fan put everything in order and went to the yard. Even if he decides to join the Yinluo sect, it will be at the beginning of next year, so let's prepare for the winter first. Thinking of this, he walked out of the yard excitedly. In several shops in the alley, he bought large jars for sauerkraut, jars for pickling kimchi, and porcelain basins for making braised meat. He also bought various vegetables, seasonings, and various bowls, plates, and cups, and then returned home with a full load. The thousands of kilograms of spiritual rice he bought in Hixuan City have never been used. The several monsters in the storage bag are enough for him to eat until the end of time. Back in the yard, Su Fan began to get busy. Making braised meat, pickling kimchi, accumulating sauerkraut, and drying vegetables are not easy and very tedious, but Su Fan enjoys it. In his previous life, he liked to stay at home, tinkering with these things, and making whatever he wanted to eat. He has never ordered takeout. If everyone is like him, the group and Hungry Nima would have been shut down long ago. Thanks to 77,885,200 for the monthly ticket support, and thanks to Quasi 637, Ztecking, Tongayu 05, Holiday Coffee, Wang Winsonday, Hello 637, Banayu JM, Zengayu Tongying, Zair, Shuiao 201912301325457447 for the recommendation tickets. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 67, Key Training Level 6. Su Fan worked for 2 days, and the courtyard became full of life. The courtyard was full of dried meat, and there were rows of radish strips, gourd strips, kidney beans, cowpeas, cabbage and other vegetables, ready to be dried. There were several large jars piled up by the wall, all of which were freshly piled up sauerkraut, and a row of jars were pickled kimchi. Living here is really convenient, and you can replenish various daily necessities without leaving the alley. It is not easy to make a living. The cost of fruits, vegetables, needles and thread from the mortal world can be completely ignored. But in the world of cultivation, all you get is magic money, and the only cost is the time spent on the road. After Su Fan moved in, other residents in the alley were curious about him. Generally, new residents will visit each household, but this household has moved in for a few days and there is no movement at all. Except for occasionally replenishing daily necessities in nearby stores, he has never been seen coming out. He stays in his yard every day and no one knows what he does. In his previous life, Su Fan didn't like socializing. He was very happy to play by himself. He had nothing to do with welcoming and seeing off guests and being well versed in human relations. He was very indifferent. After coming to the world of cultivation, Su Fan didn't change much. Unless he had to, he didn't even have the interest to communicate with others. Every day, in addition to practicing and drawing talismans, he was thinking about what to eat today. Today, Su Fan has already thought about what to eat. In fact, he thought about it last night. Next to the stove at the base of the south wall is a newly erected grill, with a hanging oven barrel on it and a charcoal fire underneath. There are skewers hanging in the barrel, as well as a marinated duck, and a large pot of clay pot spiritual rice steaming on the stove. There is also a plate of pancakes steamed on the steamer, which is used to roll the roast duck meat. This is Su Fan's dinner today. In his previous life, Su Fan often made roast duck at home. Of course, the effect can't be compared with a roast duck in Beijing, but it tastes just as delicious. Just want a sense of ritual, it can be regarded as self-satisfaction. This place is different from the previous life, and the ingredients are definitely different, but some things are incomparable to the previous life. First of all, the ducks in this world are really fat. Without the hair and internal organs, they are 8 or 9 pounds, and the meat is fat and tender, with thin skin and big breasts. Then there's the charcoal fire under the hanging stove, which is all made of spiritual wood charcoal. And the honey brushed on the duck skin is made of spiritual honey produced in the market, and the taste and texture are simply amazing. It's just a little expensive. The spiritual charcoal is okay, but the spiritual honey is not cheap. Even if it can't make the authentic taste of roast duck in the previous life, it's awesome to use these two things to roast a duck. Anyway, it's a waste. Su Fan walked out of the house, came to the side of the roast barrel, lifted the lid and took a look. Well, it's time. He took out the roast duck and skewers inside, put them on 2 plates, and brought them to the table in the hall together with a large pot of clay pot spiritual rice on the stove. He took out a magic dagger and sliced the roast duck into slices and placed them on the plate. He doesn't have the knife skills of a chef, who can slice 108 slices, but he can make sure that each slice has skin and meat, and is thin but not broken. Spread sweet noodle sauce on the pancake, put a few slices of roast duck on it, put on scallion strips, cucumber strips or radish strips, and roll up the lotus leaf pancake. Just put it in your mouth and eat it. The outer spine of the iron-skinned barbarian cattle is fat and lean, and strung into large skewers, each of which has more than half a pound of meat. Roast it until it sizzles with oil, sprinkle some barbecue condiments on it, and take a big bite. Oh my God, life is complete. Pour yourself a bowl of worldly liquor and take a sip. The hot liquor burns the throat, and the blood all over the body is instantly ignited. It's so fucking enjoyable. Su Fan was full of this meal. A large pot of spiritual rice, clay pot rice, a dozen hanging oven skewers, and a whole 8 or 9 pounds of roast duck. This meal is enough for ordinary people to eat for a week. I haven't had this kind of full feeling for a long time. When wandering outside, it is not convenient to eat. Su Fan always finds several restaurants to eat until he is 80% full. After eating, he fell on the bed, feeling very happy. This is called life. It is comfortable. No matter it is a golden nest or a grass nest, you still have to have a nest. Otherwise, you will feel uneasy and uneasy. It was late at night, and a slanting moon was shining brightly on the dark sky. Su Fan sat on the small gathering spirit formation, and his mind was full of energy. The meaning of the cycle of all things is wonderful. The pores of the whole body opened, and the rich spiritual energy around was constantly absorbed into the body. Although the richness of the spiritual energy in Hongyafan cannot be compared with that in Kangjiu City, it is not a little stronger than that in Shaoyangfang and Tuoshanfang. Huninguan +1 Su Fan was shocked, and the skills were constantly running. With one breath, he began to drive the spiritual energy of the world around him, which continuously flowed into his body, along the meridians, and circulated the skills around him. After 9 transformations of cultivation, Su Fan did not feel tired from sitting still, but his eyes were shining with vigor. Breakthrough. Su Fan opened the game panel, and the realm had been updated. Key training level 6. 1/100. Finally broke through to the 6th level of key training, and was one step closer to the late stage. If nothing unexpected happens, it will take at least 3 years to cultivate the 6th level of key training to perfection. Su Fan put away the small spirit gathering array, sat cross-legged on the futon, and sorted out all his skills and spells in his mind. He had to continue to cultivate the heavenly demon holy body art and cultivate it to the 2nd level to achieve the pure yang body. That damn old bitch threw him into the Yangji Disha, and he almost died. Su Fan thought about it, and after cultivating the 2nd level to perfection, he would never practice the 3rd level even if he was beaten to death. This is not cultivation, it's just playing with life. The phantom demon forging god art must be practiced once a day. After the heavenly demon holy body art was advanced, the spiritual consciousness has greatly increased. Through the tempering of the ghost demon forging god art these days, the newly increased spiritual consciousness has become more solid. 9 extremes continuous slash and Zingai fist are needless to say. At least before advancing to the late stage of key training, they are Su Fan's main means of fighting. Others like wind walking technique and hidden breath technique cannot be slack, and strive to brush them to settle. The 2 new spells, scent smell technique and turtle breathing technique, also need to spend more time to brush up the 2 spells. Su Fan thinks that these 2 spells will be of great use in the future. Not to mention the 2 magical powers of Thunder Eyes and Thunder Ghost Step, try to brush them to the forming momentum realm. There are also several medium grade magic talismans in the ancient magic talisman scripture, which must be practiced as soon as possible. This is the foundation for his foothold in Kangjiu City. Even if he joins the Yinluo sect, according to his way of cultivation, he will need a lot of spirit stones. As for several high-grade talismans, just go with the flow. After wandering outside for nearly a year, he had become slack in both his skills and magic. Now that he has settled down, he finally has time to accumulate some experience. There are still a few months until the beginning of next year when Yinluo sect recruits independent practitioners, which is enough time for him to improve his strength. Thanks to the monthly ticket support from bookfriend 20220816163414009, and thanks to the recommendation tickets from Fangjiao Coffee, Manager Zeman, Wang Wen second generation, and bookfriend 150,303,005,110,743. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 68, The Curse. After spending a few days in the new house, Su Fan returned to Kangjiu City. When he arrived at Liu He's courtyard, the boy was waiting for him. Seeing him, he ran over excitedly. I thought you left without saying goodbye. Su Fan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This boy is not bad, but his father said so he should contact him less in the future. I have been looking for a house outside these days, and I have found one. After hearing Su Fan's words, Liu He showed a lost expression on his face. Since he went to the inner gate, he no longer has the comfortable life he used to have. He has been living a very unhappy life recently. It's rare to have someone who can listen to his nagging every day, but he has to move away. What house are you looking for? This place has been empty for a long time. Just live here first. Su Fan smiled and said, the house has been found. It's in Hongjiafang. Hongjiafang, where's it? Not in the city. Liu He was immediately dissatisfied and said, there are ready-made places in the city, why go outside the city? I like quietness. The city is too noisy. After he said that, he was afraid that Liu He would continue to talk, so he quickly changed the subject. Su Fan took out the ancient magic talisman scripture from the storage bag and handed it to Liu He. He had copied a copy of this ancient book. I have almost finished studying this book, and it has benefited me a lot. Liu He took the ancient book and chuckled. It's good that it is useful to you. Anyway, I don't have the talent of a talisman master. Su Fan was quite emotional. Liu He was so heartless. If this ancient book was given to a small family, it could be a family heirloom. But he was so good that he just took it out and showed it to himself. This favor was not small. By the way, tell your uncle that I want to join the Yinluo sect. After hearing Su Fan's words, Liu He grabbed Su Fan's hand excitedly. Great, we will be brothers from the same sect in the future. What the hell is the same sect? You are an inner disciple, and I am an outer disciple of the outer sect. There's a big difference, okay? Liu He didn't care so much. He excitedly pulled Su Fan and insisted on treating him to a meal. Su Fan was about to refuse, but after thinking about it, he agreed. How about this? Don't go to the city to eat, come to my place. It's just right for you to recognize the door. Liu He hesitated for a moment, but still agreed happily. This kid was not big, he simply ordered a table of spiritual food at the restaurant in the city and bought 2 bottles of spiritual wine. He wasted more than 200 spiritual stones, and Su Fan couldn't stop him. When he came to Su Fan's new home in Hongjiafang, Su Fan didn't have any bad habits. This kid didn't drink much, but he kept talking, so he started to force him to drink. After a while, Liu He was stunned and fell asleep on the table. The world suddenly became quiet. Su Fan threw him into the bedroom and enjoyed a table of spiritual food alone. How can I say this table of spiritual food? The color, aroma and taste are good, the dishes are also very delicate, but it's too expensive. He ate all the more than a dozen dishes, but didn't feel a trace of spiritual energy. The next day, Su Fan was practicing the 9 extremes continuous slash in the yard. Liu He rubbed his head and walked out of the house. Seeing Su Fan practicing sword, he came over. Brother, you are already in the middle stage of key training, why are you still practicing this stuff? Su Fan ignored him and continued to practice sword. Alice, the inner sect competition will be held in a few days, I will definitely be miserable. Su Fan stopped and turned to look at Liu He. Are you going to compete in the inner sect competition on the ring? Liu He said with a bitter face. There is no ring in the demon sect, they all compete in the secret realm. Secret realm? Liu He smiled bitterly and explained, the Yinluo sect has 2 major secret realms, which are full of evil demons and monsters. If you are not careful, you will lose half your life. Half your life, the elders of the sect will protect you on the side. Although you can save your life, you will inevitably be seriously injured. Then when we recruit casual cultivators, are we also tested in such secret realms? Outer disciples don't have the opportunity to enter such a large secret realm. The sect also has more than a dozen other small secret realms. Su Fan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The sect is awesome. Liu He is actually worried about this matter. What a good opportunity for actual combat, and there are also the support of the elders of the sect. This kid really doesn't know how to cherish it. It is estimated that when the independent cultivators are assessed, the Yingluo sect will definitely not send people to follow. After all, independent cultivators are worthless, and they will die if they die. It just happens that I owe this kid a favor, so I will help him once. I have always wanted to ask, what is your major? The way of incantation. Su Fan frowned immediately. What kind of way is this? How about this, you attack me? Liu He looked at Su Fan in confusion and asked, attack you? Aren't you going to participate in the inner sect competition? I will help you accumulate some actual combat experience. Liu He understood it then. He pinched his fingers and chanted a spell, and condensed a black sharp arrow with his hand, shooting it at Su Fan. Su Fan was stunned. Just like this. The time to launch the spell is too slow, the method of pinching the fingers is problematic, and the spell should not work. A sharp arrow composed of shadows instantly came in front of Su Fan. Su Fan didn't even draw his sword, he just turned sideways and swung his right hand to smash it. Bang! The sharp arrow condensed by the shadow suddenly turned into a wisp of black smoke and dissipated. After breaking through the second stage of Demon Saint body art, Su Fan's physical strength has changed a lot. Facing ordinary low-grade magic weapons, he dared to resist one or two. This level of spells, if according to the requirements of the panel, is just the entry level. 5 out of 100 level. This kid should have learned this spell and stopped practicing it. Not only him, but the cultivators in this world generally believe that spells are useless. Liu He was completely confused and a little incoherent. Big brother, you are a physical cultivator. Su Fan was amused and laughed. I am a physical cultivator, don't you know? Aren't you cultivating the way of the soul? Su Fan was too lazy to pay attention to him. Was that spell from the cursed Dao? Liu He blushed and said angrily, the cursed Dao doesn't have low-grade attack spells, so I studied Shadow Dao as a minor. The spell just now was the Yin Fu arrow. Then use the spells and magic tools you are best at. Come on. Liu He was a little embarrassed. The spell he cast was actually beaten by someone with bare hands. He also wanted to save face, and he was young and competitive, so he couldn't stand this. Liu He first pinched a strange finger gesture with his right hand, and formed a complicated seal with his left hand, and pointed at Su Fan with his right hand. Su Fan felt that there seemed to be an inexplicable dark aura descending on him, making his body slow down. Su Fan shook his head and understood what the cursed Dao was. It was a very insidious Taoist school of curses and black magic. If it was performed by a master of this way, the power should not be underestimated. If the spell is used well, it is definitely the most powerful way to ambush people. If it is used in a specific environment, or if it is used to ambush the opponent in the dark, the power will definitely be doubled. But Liu He obviously didn't figure it out, and nothing worked. The slow spell he cast, for a physical cultivator like Su Fan, the slowing effect can be completely ignored. Brother, I'm going to take action, Liu He shouted, slapped his storage bag, and sacrificed a blood luo knife. He pinched his fingers and pointed forward, and the blood luo knife instantly turned into a red blade light and disappeared. Su Fan shook his head. It was a pity for this middle-grade magic weapon, the power was only 50%. Bang! Su Fan stood in place, without moving, and casually chopped the blood luo knife away with a sword. Now his strength and the strength of his body have increased several times, plus the magic sword weighing more than 300 pounds. Even if he is in the late stage of key training, as long as he gets close to him, he will be tortured to death. Liu He stared at Su Fan in a daze, his face full of disbelief. He had been hit by his own slow spell, so why was he not affected at all? Are all the current physical cultivators so damn powerful? Thanks to Mulan Yakishu, Zhiren, Ashenhs, Finglashun, Xiangte Yeshan, Fangjia Coffee, Wang Wen Sande, Hello 637, Banayu JM, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69. How did he survive until now? How did you practice this magic? Also, why is your consciousness so scattered? You haven't even used half of the power of the magic weapon. Liu He's face flushed after being told by Su Fan. He was so ashamed. He used to be very comfortable in the outer sect. He could pay more attention to the skills, but he didn't care about other things like magic. Use your strongest means, don't be shy, come on. Liu He was also irritated and made a very strange finger gesture again. He chanted a spell, and his voice seemed to be an extremely evil whisper. Su Fan felt a cold breath descending on him again, and he was chilled from head to toe. But it was just a slight chill in his soul, and nothing happened. After Liu He finished the spell, he reached out and took out a medium-grade attack talisman and threw it out fiercely. But it was chopped off by Su Fan's sword, and his figure flashed and came to Liu He. Wind-walking technique has advanced to the subtle realm. As long as he thought about it, Su Fan's figure could instantly float several meters away. He swung the sword and slashed it fiercely, with a terrifying murderous aura, whistling down. Liu He was almost scared to death. Looking at the sword falling down, he closed his eyes resignedly. He felt a chill on his neck, and when he opened his eyes again, he found that the sword was already across his neck. Liu He didn't understand. The soul-destroying curse had clearly been cast on Su Fan, so why was he not affected at all? How could he know that Su Fan's consciousness was no less than that of a key cultivating master? Liu He's pitiful consciousness, the curse cast on Su Fan, was no different from tickling. Su Fan looked at Liu He coldly, not giving him any face. You dare to fight with others without even using a protective talisman, you are courting death. Seeing the magic sword taken off his neck, Liu He breathed a sigh of relief. Although he knew that it was just a competition, he felt as if he had experienced a moment of death just now. Oh, aren't we sparring? Besides, you won't kill me. Su Fan was so angry that his liver hurt. What kind of words are these? It seems that not all the people in the demon sect are fierce and violent. There are also people who slack off. How did this guy dare to go down the mountain? How did he survive until now? No wonder the brothers in the inner sect look down on him. It's not all because of the special income, but mainly because his strength is too bad. Don't leave these days. Your strength is too bad. Accumulate some practical experience here. After hearing Su Fan's words, Liu He immediately became energetic. Today he can be regarded as truly witnessing Su Fan's strength. The murderous aura that burst out from the sword just now still has lingering fears when he thinks about it now. How many people did he have to kill to condense such a terrifying murderous aura? It is of course great to have such a fierce man to help him accumulate practical experience. In fact, he had already had the mentality of lying down and playing badly for this inner sect competition. Anyway, no one can beat him. As long as he is not at the bottom, he will be very satisfied. Thinking of this, Liu He took out 2 jade slips of spell inheritance and handed them to Su Fan. Brother, these are the jade slips of spell inheritance of Shadow Dao and Curse Dao. Can you help me sort them out? Su Fan was stunned at the time. This guy is too careless. This is the jade slip of spell inheritance of the sect. How can you show it to others casually? Su Fan sighed, really heartless. He took a jade slip and put it on his forehead. After a while, he put down the jade slip and looked at Liu He with strange eyes. You may not have even exerted 1% of the power of the Yin Fu arrow. Liu He wanted to argue, but was interrupted by Su Fan with a wave of his hand. There are problems with your finger gestures and spells. The spells are too slow to be launched. With your casting speed, even if you meet a casual cultivator, you don't know how you will die. After he finished speaking, he interrupted Liu He again, not giving him a chance to speak. 9 Nether Demon Shadow, have you learned it? Too difficult. I haven't learned it yet. Tell me about you. 9 Nether Demon Shadow is invisible. The curse is used to assist the Yin Fu arrow attacks, plus the magic tools and talismans. What a good way to ambush Yin people. Liu He was stunned. This is. He has no practical experience at all, and has not even participated in the outer sect competition. He has been living comfortably in the outer affairs hall. Su Fan began to pinch his fingers and chant the spell, and instantly condensed into a black arrow, which he threw out violently. He opened the panel, Yin Fu arrow, beginner, 1/100. Liu He was hit again. It took him more than 10 days to learn this spell. But Su Fan only took a few glances and learned it. How could he know that Su Fan has been doing nothing else every day for the past 2 years, and has been brushing a few spells? He is definitely a spell maniac. For a spell rookie like Liu He, it is a dimensionality reduction attack. Su Fan picked up another jade slip, and his eyes lit up. There were all the middle and low-grade spells of the curse. There were more than a dozen spells, including the soul-binding spell, soul-lost spell, bloodthirsty spell, hemostasis spell, evil-repelling spell, heart-eating spell, slowing spell, weakening spell, etc. Su Fan put down the jade slip and glanced at Liu He. With your strength, you can only take shortcuts in the secret realm. You can get a few heads by ambushing Yin people, but you will be a delivery in a head-on fight with others. I will help you design several ways to Yin people. You will practice these in the next few days. In the next few days, Su Fan corrected Liu He's movement step by step, and forced him to practice several spells every day. Although the effect was not satisfactory, it was much stronger than before. Moreover, Su Fan designed several Yin people combination packages for Liu He. If you adapt to local conditions and have good luck, it is not impossible to kill enemies of higher levels. A few days later, Liu He was driven away by Su Fan. He didn't expect that he would return a favor, but he didn't expect there would be an unexpected surprise. Su Fan has been helping Liu He sort out his spells these days, and has been guiding him step by step, which has greatly improved Liu He's ability to master spells. He has also learned the 9 nether demon shadows, slow spell, soul destroying spell and weakening spell. 9 nether demon shadows is a concealment spell of the shadow path, which can make oneself temporarily invisible in the dark. If it is cast at night, the effect will be doubled, which is definitely a trick to seduce people. Su Fan learned the 3 spells of slow spell, soul destroying spell and weakening spell without thinking. The spells of the curse path are easy to learn but difficult to master. Most people can rarely practice spells to the extreme, because the deeper the understanding, the more it feels like a heavenly book. For Su Fan, this is not a big deal with the game panel. In fact, all of Su Fan's spells and magical powers are basically not offensive, and they are all for his close combat method. These spells are also auxiliary, especially a few spells, which will definitely have a miraculous effect when combined with close combat methods. At least before breaking through the late stage of key training, Su Fan's fighting style was still mainly physical close combat, supplemented by talismans and magic weapons. Chapter 70 Look at your achievements. In the next few days, Su Fan stayed at home. Every day was very fulfilling, practicing, drawing talismans, changing the method to think about food, and the days were leisurely and comfortable. 9 nether demon shadow was more difficult, and it took a few days to get started. The only function of this shadow spell is to hide in the dark and ambush people, and the effect is really good. Su Fan plans to practice it in the future and see the effect. Slow spell, soul lost spell and weakness spell, these 3 spells of the curse, are very simple to get started. Su Fan is a little looking forward to it. How awesome it will be if he can practice these 3 spells in the future. There are also several medium-grade magic talismans. He has been practicing on rice paper and has basically mastered them now. Of course, when the talismans are officially made, the success rate is hard to say. After all, the magic talismans and the talismans of the immortal sect are significantly different in many aspects. Relatively speaking, the production of the talismans of the demon sect is more complicated. Take the talisman ink for example. The talismans of the immortal sect can basically use any kind of talisman ink, but the demon sect is different. There are more than a dozen kinds of talismans, including blood ink, soul ink, yin ink, and bone ink. In addition, many talismans of the demon sect require additional media. For example, the evil ghost talisman requires a ghost to be sealed in the talisman. If the talisman fails to be made, the ghost will also be annihilated. The bone talisman requires the bone powder of monsters or the powder of evil bones. The bloodthirsty talisman requires the blood of monsters or monks, and the blood demon talisman requires the soul of monsters. The higher the level of the medium, the greater the power of the talisman. In general, the talismans of the demon sect are much more powerful than those of the immortal sect. At night, Su Fan bent over his desk and wrote with a focused expression. To make a magic talisman, one must eliminate distractions, focus on it, and chant obscure, profound and difficult to understand spells that seem to be meaningless. He picked up the talisman pen and wrote it down. On the talisman paper, the rune pattern suddenly changed. The rune pattern that was supposed to be tortuous and delicate was just brushed over by Su Fan. Instead, he drew a series of dense and complex patterns at the end. The rune on it flashed twice quickly, and then exploded with a bang. Failed again. The magic talisman is not easy to draw. After several talismans in a row, they all failed. Su Fan rubbed his eyebrows, his eyes became more tired, and his face became even paler. He closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead for a long time before he could take a breath. After a short rest, he continued to write. Su Fan's expression was focused and he forgot himself. Immersed in a mysterious and peaceful state, his eyes were only focused on the thin and dense lines on the talisman paper. The pen tip tapped, plucked, hooked, drew, and rotated with sharp and precise force. A thin piece of light green pine grain talisman paper gradually formed a dense and delicate pattern under the talisman pen. Snap! Finally, the last stroke was drawn. Success! Su Fan put down the talisman pen, pressed his hands on the wooden table and gasped. His whole body felt like it was falling apart, and he felt sore and swollen. After his consciousness recovered, Su Fan continued to make talismans, and then he succeeded in making 2 talismans in a row as if assisted by God. The next day, Su Fan started to set up a stall in Hongyafang to sell talismans. There were not many magic talismans, and he mainly sold the old talismans, plus some miscellaneous things. Business was surprisingly good, especially the various medium-grade talismans of the Xianzong, which were particularly popular. The areas controlled by the demon sect were very tolerant of the various cultivation materials of the Xianzong. Even the cultivation of the Xianzong's skills and spells was not controlled by anyone. This was absolutely unimaginable in the areas controlled by the Xianzong. It was not until the evening that Su Fan closed his stall and went home. When he arrived at the door of his house, he saw Liu He waiting there. Seeing Su Fan coming back, he ran over excitedly. "Brother, in the inner sect competition, I didn't come in last." Su Fan chuckled and said, "So you made it into the top 10, I just entered the inner sect, how is that possible?" "Oh, then why are you so excited, just because you didn't come in last?" "Yes, I followed what you taught me and ambushed 2 people, one of whom was at the 7th level of key training." Su Fan didn't bother to pay attention to him and opened the door to enter the yard. "You don't know the face of my senior brother who was ambushed by me, haha, look at your lack of ability." Liu He didn't get angry after hearing this, and laughed. "With my qualifications, I have never thought about building a foundation. My father didn't build a foundation either, but he lived a good life." Su Fan turned his head and glanced at Liu He, and couldn't help but sigh. This kid's only good point is that he has a good mentality. You are already an inner sect disciple, and you always run down the mountain when you have nothing to do. Is that okay? The management of inner sect disciples is very loose, and there are no sect chores. You can leave if you want. Well, this guy is really unique. The inner disciples practice hard every day, but this guy still has time to hang around. You are an inner disciple, but you hang out with me, a casual cultivator, every day. Is that right? Anyway, the senior brothers in the inner sect don't treat me as an inner sect disciple." At this point, Liu He showed a disappointed expression on his face. "Okay, you can enter the inner sect, so be content." Liu He became excited again after hearing Su Fan's words. "Yes, since I entered the inner sect, my father is very happy, and my uncles and uncles come to my house every day." In the evening, Su Fan prepared 2 pots, stewed pork belly with dried beans, and cooked 2 side dishes. It was the first time for Liu He to taste Su Fan's cooking, and he almost ate to death. In this world of cultivation, cultivators only eat to get by except occasionally eating spiritual food in restaurants. The spiritual food in restaurants is not cheap, and even cultivators with rich wealth cannot go there often. On weekdays, cultivators only eat to get by. Even many ascetic monks have been eating fasting pills all year round. "Brother, can I come to your place for dinner often?" Su Fan nodded and said, "Come whenever you want." Liu He said excitedly, "I will provide the ingredients in the future, and you can cook it. How about that?" "Sure, just bring whatever you have." Su Fan didn't take it seriously, but Liu He took it seriously. The next day, Liu He brought a lot of ingredients, including various monster meats, spiritual mushrooms, spiritual fruits, etc. At noon that day, Su Fan came back from setting up a stall in the market, and saw Liu He standing at the gate of the yard with 2 people. Su Fan frowned immediately. It would be fine if he ate by himself, but he brought people with him. Liu He saw the unhappiness on Su Fan's face and ran up quickly. "My former senior brother from the outer sect, I have boasted about my awesomeness, you can't hit me in the face." After he said that, He looked at Su Fan again and smiled carefully. It's not for nothing. These guys are from the External Affairs Hall and have no shortage of spirit stones. Don't do it again. Su Fan glanced at Liu He after he finished speaking, and ignored him and went straight into the yard. He brought the people here, so how could he chase them away? The two outer disciples were not as easygoing as Liu He, and they looked superior. Su Fan didn't care. It was normal for the sect disciples to be like this. After all, there were not many outliers like Liu He. Lao Bu might have gone yang, and his current condition was very poor, but it would not delay the daily update. Thanks to 77,885,200, Tang Fengaiu, Ztecking, 6 Years of Secret Love, and Book Friend 160,903,181,942,405 for their monthly ticket support. Thanks to for the reward. Thanks to HNHZZ, Tongayu 05, Caozhen, Trutsk, Holiday Coffee, I Am Your Sister, Zaire, Zengayu Tongying, Book Friend 20170826200520614, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 71 Su's Private Kitchen. Now Liu He is already an inner sect disciple, which has a great impact on his former outer sect brothers. Although there are many people who despise him, there are always people who flatter him. I guess these two guys are the kind of people who fly for more than an hour to Hongyifang just to have a meal. How stupid they are. Because time is in a hurry, Su Fan made a shoot hot pot to save trouble. The soup base is made by Su Fan himself, and the taste is not bad. The ingredients are the tenderloin and upper brain of the iron skin barbarian bull, which are cut into thin slices with a magic sword and evenly arranged on the plate. There are also beef tripe, yellow throat, beef balls, duck intestines, duck blood, mushrooms, and various vegetables. Su Fan moved the pot to the table, arranged the ingredients, and then went back to the house. He doesn't have time to accompany them. He only knows how to brag after drinking a little wine. If he has the time, wouldn't it be better to practice magic? Anyway, he has to make it clear to Liu He in the future that he can do it himself, but he can never bring others. Liu He and his friends spent nearly 2 hours on the meal. They enjoyed it very much and drank some wine. They were all in good spirits. Before leaving, an outer disciple took out 2 medium-grade spirit stones and put them on the table. Su Fan was a little confused. He really paid for it. Except for the ingredients, he spent some time on it. The other ingredients basically had no cost. 2 medium-grade spirit stones are a bit too much? How can I be so embarrassed? A few days later, Liu He came early. When he saw Su Fan, he was embarrassed. Brother, I was wrong. I will never bring anyone here again. Su Fan got anxious when he heard it. How could that be possible? But he didn't show it, and still pretended to be calm. If you want to bring someone, bring them. There are not many people here on weekdays. It will be more lively with more people. Really, Liu He was immediately excited when he heard it. The 2 people he brought last time have been looking for him these days and want to have another meal. Come if you want to. It's not like you won't pay. Su Fan's words were directly ignored by Liu He, who thought he was joking. People like Liu He, who grew up in the sect and had his father take care of him, had no idea about spirit stones. He didn't think Su Fan came for the spirit stones, but for his sake. Then I'll bring them over tomorrow, okay? Liu He carefully looked at Su Fan's face after he said that, fearing that he would disagree. Su Fan didn't have any expression on his face, but he was very happy in his heart. If you give me spirit stones, I can come every day. Well, then come. Damn, 2 medium-grade spirit stones, you can't make more than a day's stall. Brother, I want to bring a few more people this time, and eat that hot pot. Okay, when you come, you'd better notify me in advance. Liu He took out a message talisman and used it to notify him. 2 days later, Liu He came with 5 or 6 people, and Su Fan was ready. This time he was much more meticulous, whether it was the ingredients, the dipping sauce, or the plating, it was very ceremonial. In addition, he also used a shuogyang pot, which was prepared for people who can't eat spicy food. These people were also Liu He's fellow disciples in the outer sect, all of whom were disciples with lucrative positions in the External Affairs Hall. Just like last time, this meal was quite enjoyable. Several people drank until their faces flushed, and left in a swaying manner. Su Fan went out to take a look and found that there were 4 medium-grade spirit stones on the table in the hall. This is too polite, there is no need for so many. He muttered this, but his heart was already full of joy. In the following period of time, Liu He brought people here from time to time for a meal. At first, it might be to make friends with Liu He, but after eating once, you can't forget it. Later, even some of the outer sect disciples brought by Liu He brought people here. Su Fan, of course, welcomed them with both hands, and it would be better if everyone brought people. He doesn't even set up a stall now. After a day of hard work, he didn't make as much as cooking a meal. How embarrassed is he? In fact, Su Fan's cooking skills are not that good, and he is definitely not as good as the chef of the spiritual food restaurant. But delicacies from the previous life, such as hot pot and skewers, can still capture the taste buds of most people in this world. And if we follow the standards of restaurants in the city, Su Fan's dishes can also be considered spiritual food. After all, the iron-skinned barbarian bull is also a monster. And these young disciples of the sect are all very nice, and they will throw down a few medium-grade spiritual stones every time they come. If you're calculated this way, Su Fan can earn at least several thousand spiritual stones a month. In order to keep these people, he used all kinds of hanging oven grilled skewers, Kyoto roast duck, fried steak, and the 4 major cuisines, and made them in different ways. The wine was bought in the secular world, and it was a strong liquor that would set your whole body on fire after drinking a sip. Although it is not a spiritual wine, it is very popular. Why? It is very addictive. Su Fan's small courtyard has become more and more lively, and people come here almost every day. Later, as more and more people came, the small courtyard seemed small. Su Fan specially rented a larger courtyard nearby and converted several rooms in the courtyard into private rooms. The only thing missing is a sign that says Su's private kitchen. Now Su Fan has a bunch of communication talismans in his hand. He only accepts advance reservations and does not accept any other orders. One day, Su Fan was packing up the ingredients when the communication talisman in his arms rang. He took out a communication talisman and heard Liu He's shout, "Brother, book a table tomorrow and make sure to cook well." Several inner disciples are coming. Su Fan curled his lips. What's so great about inner disciples? What's so great about them? He said this, but in his heart he was thinking, will I give you a few more spirit stones if the inner disciples come? After all, it was something Liu He personally instructed, so Su Fan was more concerned. Hanging oven grilled skewers, fillet steak, plus a few refreshing side dishes, and a pot of tendons and brains, that's it. At noon, Liu He led a few people to the gate of the courtyard. Liu He brought 3 inner disciples, 2 men and 1 woman. The girl was pretty, but she was still dissatisfied with flying for an hour to eat here. There are so many restaurants in the city, why did you choose to come to this shabby place? The 2 brothers from the inner sect just listened with a smile, and no one spoke. Liu He smiled awkwardly and said, the brothers should have eaten almost all the restaurants in the city, so I chose this place, which has a different flavor. The girl was full of impatience, rolled her eyes at Liu He, and walked into the courtyard. Su Fan just came out of the house and saw the expression on the girl's face, as well as the 2 people who were watching the fun. He understood at that time that Liu He seemed to be frustrated. Why bother? They clearly look down on you, but you still want to put your face on the cold butt. Of course, this matter has nothing to do with him. As long as you give the spirit stone, the customer is God. Su Fan led a few people to the private room. The girl kept complaining all the way until they entered the private room. Chapter 72 Brother, you have changed. Su Fan led the people into the private room, served the dishes, and then left them alone. He came to the backyard and saw 2 bronze-armored zombies busy there. These 2 guys can fight without any problem, and they can tear people into pieces with a few claws. But they are really not good at doing delicate work. They can chop meat into mincemeat, but they only know how to add firewood to the fire. Later, they were simply asked to do some simpler work. One zombie was responsible for chopping wood, and the other was constantly turning the grill, on which was a sheep ordered by someone else. This is a monster called brown armored ugly, a specialty of the Kanji Mountains. That's right, Su Fan also added the roasted whole lamb from his previous life to the recipe of private dishes. Zombies are good at chopping wood, but they only know how to chop and not clean up. Zombies did a good job of turning the grill, and they kept shaking it tirelessly for several hours. Whoosh! Su Fan felt a chill on his back, and then he saw Sister Zhen appear behind him, and a thought came to his mind. He turned around and came to the row of hanging ovens and roasting barrels at the back, opened the lid and took a look. Well, the temperature is just right. Su Fan glanced at Sister Zhen behind him and gave her an encouraging look. Sister Zhen is good, she can help him look after the stove and the roasting barrel. After all, she is a ghost soldier level ghost, very sensitive to changes in heat, and very accurate in controlling the temperature. Now this yard has at least 2 tables every day, and sometimes 5 or 6 tables. In fact, for Su Fan, it is really not a big deal. Because these people are all rushing to come at lunchtime, there are no too difficult dishes. Even if there are 10 tables, he can easily handle it. With the arrival of the other 2 tables, Su Fan was fine, and went back to the original small courtyard to practice. There is no need to keep anyone here. There are several jars of strong liquor in the yard. If you want to drink, go and scoop it yourself. In the main hall, there are all kinds of fresh fruits, dried fruits and candied fruits, fruits and vegetables, as well as refreshing pickles, mixed vegetables, and some worldly cakes. Even the seasonings and dipping sauces are labeled and placed in small jars, just like in the previous life. Customers can choose and use them as they like. In addition to the main dishes, Su Fan will prepare as much as possible according to the number of people. Other side dishes are completely self-service, that is, you can take whatever you want. After the group of people finished eating, they left a few spirit stones on the table and left quietly. People who have eaten here are relatively new to the self-service style here. Even paying for meals is entirely up to you, and it is more or less arbitrary. You definitely can't do this in Kangjiu City, because those casual cultivators can harm you to death. But those who come here are young disciples of Yinluo sect, and they are all good at saving face, so they won't be so mean. Those who can spend an hour here specially like this taste, and they can't find this taste anywhere else. Anyway, Su's private kitchen has been open for less than a month, and the business is getting better and better. It's early winter now, and the weather is getting colder. Come here to have a meal of Kyoto hot pot, Bashu spicy hot pot and Cantonese hot pot, which are very refreshing. Or make a few casserole dishes and dry pot dishes, put charcoal fire underneath, the pot is bubbling with hot steam, and then add a few ounces of worldly strong liquor. The taste is so good that even immortals would have to drink it. The next day, Liu He came excitedly, his face was as happy as a flower. Brother, the senior sister was very satisfied yesterday. Su Fan glanced at him and smiled and squeezed. Why, do you like this senior sister? Liu He was so scared that he almost sat on the ground, and waved his hands to deny it. Brother, don't hurt me, she is a descendant of the Jinden family, she is very powerful in the inner sect, I have always wanted to worship her, but no one cares about me. Su Fan frowned. Is the sect so messy? You have a lot of people in the inner sect, right? They are all the children of some families in the sect. They stick together and compete for resources. Your senior sister was satisfied yesterday, so you can be considered to have entered their sect. Liu He was very excited at that time, with a face full of show-off. Well, in the future, I will be in the inner sect, at least it will not be like before, and I will also have a backer. Looking at Liu He's look, Su Fan shook his head. It was not easy to enter the inner sect. Why not practice hard? Why do these crooked ways? You are considered to be rich, so when you come in the future, do I have to greet you? No matter how stupid Liu He was, he could hear that Su Fan was mocking him. Brother, we are brothers, how can I treat you like that? I joined this sect not to go out and act arrogantly, but just want to stay in the inner sect comfortably. Su Fan was too lazy to pay attention to him, and drew talismans by himself. My senior sister will book a table tomorrow, and there will be more people, about a dozen people. Looking at Liu He's lackey-like appearance, Su Fan felt a little emotional. Brother, you have changed. Just for this, you specially came here. No, I mainly want to see you. Well, come on, have you decided what to eat? Liu He thought for a while and said, then let's prepare hot pot, meat skewers, roast duck. What kind of eating is this? Can we eat together? Okay, if you say it's possible, then it's possible. The next day, Su Fan prepared several tables of main dishes before noon. Now Su Fan has become more and more particular, especially about ingredients, and chooses spiritual beast meat as much as possible. Even for barbecue, spiritual charcoal is used to wash the pot, and many seasonings are also selected from spiritual materials. Even so, the cost is negligible. It is not certain whether it tastes good or not, but the grade of various dishes has obviously improved, and now it can be completely called spiritual food. The restaurants in the city are actually the same. Who can't brag? When the inner sect sister came, the momentum was like the big sister of the club bringing her younger brother to mess up the place. There were more than a dozen inner sect disciples behind her, walking with the wind, and even with their own BGM. Liu he couldn't squeeze in at all, so he could only follow behind as a lackey. Fortunately, when designing a private room, Su Fan specially reserved a larger private room that could seat more than a dozen people. Otherwise, it would be difficult to arrange such a large group of people. After Su Fan settled a few tables, he returned to his own courtyard and practiced magic with peace of mind. He took a duck out of the cage, and then cast 3 spells on the duck in turn. There was no other way. The spells of the curse must have a target to be cast in order to increase proficiency. Su Fan once summoned 2 zombies, but it didn't work. The curse had no effect on evil spirits, and the proficiency was very slow. Fortunately, the roast ducks were selling fast recently, so he had a target to cast spells. Anyway, these ducks have suffered a lot. They are tossed to death by Su Fan every day, and they all go into the oven with a sense of resentment. After ruining a few ducks, Su Fan sighed. This won't work. The ducks can't stand his tossing. Some customers have reported that the ducks are not as tender as before. Thanks to Twagayu05, 13,141,281, Ashen HZZ, Ziogachi, XLWXM, Holiday Coffee, Zengayu Tongying, Book Friend 150,303,005,110,743, Book Friend 20220106225710373, and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 73, Not Knowing What's Good for You. Su Fan put down the poor duck and threw it back into the cage. Just as he was about to turn around and go into the house, he felt a chill coming from behind. He knew without asking that it was Sister Zhen. Su Fan received a thought, and it turned out that there was a ghost cultivator next to the big sister. The other party's aura was too strong, and Sister Zhen didn't dare to stay there. Then you come back first and play here by yourself. Sister Zhen received Su Fan's thought and floated away happily. Now Sister Zhen is getting more and more unrestrained, and often hangs out outside for a whole day. One day I will go to the city and buy a ghost weapon for her to live in, so that I don't have to take out the evil ghost banner every time I summon her. Sister Zhen's ghost body is getting more and more solid, and I will buy her a ghost technique in the near future. Su Fan returned to the house and just wanted to practice the ghost demon forging god technique for a while, when he heard someone knocking on the door outside. He went out and saw Liu He standing at the door. Brother, senior sister wants to see you, hurry up. Su Fan was so angry. That was not my senior sister. Big sister, why are you looking for me? Liu He hurriedly grabbed Su Fan and dragged him outside without saying a word. Anyway, it's a good thing. Come with me quickly. Su Fan didn't think so. There are not so many good things in this world. He was dragged to the big private room by Liu He. After entering, everyone was looking at him. The atmosphere was quite depressing for a while. Senior sister sat in the first seat, with the posture of a big sister in the hall. She was dressed in black, with a delicate face like a painting. Her hair was tied up without any decoration. Her skin was white and shiny, like a lotus emerging from the water. Like a rose with thorns, her pair of beautiful eyes was even more compelling. Su Fan arched his hands to the senior sister, and said, neither servile nor arrogant, the simple food of the mountains and fields. I don't know if it suits the appetite of fellow Taoists. Well, although the dishes are a bit crude, they also have a unique flavor. Hearing the words of the big sister, Su Fan was flattered and arched his hands. That's good. I'm just afraid that you fellow Taoists are not used to the wild game here. The big sister laughed and said, okay, let me tell you something, fellow Taoist, please tell me. I think your restaurant has a unique flavor. You can open one in Kangjiu City to save the trouble of going back and forth. Su Fan got scared when he heard that. Could it be that the other party wanted to seize this property? But after thinking about it, he felt that it was unlikely. How could they look down on his little stuff? Fellow Taoist, you are joking. My rustic food is inseparable from the countryside. It won't taste the same in the city. The senior sister frowned and laughed. You are afraid that I will seize your tiny shop? Su Fan laughed and said, fellow Taoist, you are too serious. You are all the elites of the sect. How can you care about my small business? It's just that a game in the countryside is really not presentable. The senior sister snorted and sneered, "Don't talk about those useless things. You don't have to worry about the store when you come to Kangjiu City. If you are still worried, I will buy a share from you." Su Fan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This senior sister is really generous, more heroic than many masters. If he opened a private dish in a place like Kangjiu City, with the protection of the senior sister, it would not be a problem to increase the business several times or even dozens of times. But he really didn't want to go to the city. The more prosperous the place, the more conflicts of interest there are. Although he was protected by the senior sister, she also had enemies. If there was a real fight, his store would definitely be the first to bear the brunt. When gods fight, mortals suffer. When the time comes, there will be no place to cry. It is better to stay in Hungyafang. I earn 18,000 spirit stones every month. What else do I need? Su Fan is such a person who does not want to make progress. In fact, there is another reason, that is, the things he sells are really not very technical. What is a private dish? It must have an exclusive secret recipe to be called a private dish. The hot pot and skewers he makes are just for novelty. Let the old masters figure it out in a few days. Once he enters the city, within 3 months, the streets will be full of hot pot and skewers. Thinking of this, Su Fan bowed his hand again. Devours, Su Fan appreciates your kindness. The simple food in the mountains is really not worthy of being in a refined place. Senior sister didn't expect that after she said so, this guy still refused. She waved her hand impatiently and said, "Okay, you don't know what's good for you." Su Fan smiled indifferently and left the private room. After walking a few steps out of the private room, Liu He chased out. "Brother, why didn't you agree just now? Do you know how big of an opportunity you missed?" Su Fan chuckled and said, "You know, I didn't do this to make spirit stones." He said it with a dignified manner, as if it were true. Anyway, Liu He believed it. "Brother, I know you are not doing this for spirit stones, but you can use this shop to get in touch with my senior sister. In the future, who'll dare to mess with you in Kangjiu City or even in Yinluo sect?" Su Fan was amused. "Silly brother, how can I say anything to you? Even if he enters Yinluo sect in the future, he will be an outer sect of the outer sect. Why should my senior sister protect you? I am a casual cultivator. What's the use of getting in touch with my senior sister? Aren't you going to join Yinluo sect in the future? With a relationship with my senior sister, it will be easier to get along in the sect." Su Fan didn't want to say anything anymore. He held Liu He and shook his head. "Brother, everyone has their own ambitions." After he finished speaking, he turned around and left without waiting for Liu He to speak. This kid may have been brainwashed by his father. Without strength, even if you hook up with a big sister, what can you do? You are only worthy of being a lackey. She has so many people around her, so why does she need lackeys? If one day, she quarrels with her rival, the first one to suffer is a lackey like you. But at this time, Liu He will definitely not listen to the advice. Su Fan didn't want to persuade him either. After all, he was in the inner sect, so it was understandable for him to think so. In the afternoon, Liu He came again. "Are they all gone?" Seeing Liu He nod, Su Fan turned around and shouted, "Sister Zhen, collect the spirit stones." Whoosh! A cold ghost figure floated up from nowhere and left the yard in an instant. "Brother." Senior sister is a little unhappy and said that you don't know how to appreciate it. Su Fan smiled, as if he agreed, and she would take him seriously. "It's okay, don't I still have you? When I enter the sect in the future, you will protect me." Liu He was immediately excited, and the dejection on his face just now disappeared in an instant. "Brother, don't worry. When you go to Yinluo sect, I will protect you." Su Fan smiled. "You are really careless." He didn't want to listen to Liu He's nonsense, so he drove him away. Whoosh! Sister Zhen floated back from outside the yard, dragging a dozen medium-grade spirit stones and handed them to Su Fan. "Sister Zhen is good. Tomorrow, I will make you a ghost weapon and a ghost secret book, so that you can become my ghost general in the future." Su Fan's cake was well drawn. Sister Zhen was so excited that she floated around the yard, and waves of joy came from her. "Thank you ZJP420 for the 2 monthly tickets. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you, Zia Aozi, Suo Yisi, Book Friend 201912131256373393, and all the big guys for your recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support." Chapter 74. I'm really free. The north wind was howling, and the sound of snowflakes falling on the roof was rustling. The snow was getting heavier and heavier, and the dense snow fell on the roof, and a thin layer of white snow was spread between the grass. The eaves were all white, and the silver was particularly enchanting. This was the first snow of this winter. Under the rain in the hall, Su Fan sat on a recliner, watching the snowflakes falling outside. Seeing that the water in the teapot on the clay stove next to him was boiling, he took it down and brewed a pot of spiritual tea for himself. He poured himself a cup and closed his eyes and tasted it slowly. There were only a few dozen pieces of spiritual tea left that Lao Yu gave him. When he drank it before, he didn't take it seriously. Later, there was not much spiritual tea left, and Su Fan thought of buying some more in the city, but when he asked the price, he was almost scared to death. The spiritual tea that Lao Yu gave him cost hundreds of spiritual stones for 1 or 2. You read it right, it was sold by 2. Such expensive spiritual tea, he used to drink it like a cow, only knowing that it tasted good, but never tasted it carefully. That was more than a pound of spiritual tea, adding up to thousands of spiritual stones, which made him suffer. Now Su Fan is much more careful, only putting 2 or 3 pieces each time. And every cup is carefully tasted. Since he knew the value of spiritual tea, he felt that this tea tasted much better than before. Su's private restaurant has been operating for more than 2 months, and the business has been good. Especially in the past month, 6 private rooms are not enough. But Su Fan still did not add tables, first come first served, and those who didn't book had to queue up later. Later, the reservations were scheduled for a few days later. Although his ignorance of courtesy annoyed the big sister of the inner sect, she would come from time to time, but she never gave Su Fan a good face again. Su Fan didn't take it seriously. Even if he agreed to the request of the senior sister, she would give you a good face. You are a small casual cultivator, in the eyes of the inner sect disciples, you are not even a grass. The most annoying thing is that Liu He is getting more and more extravagant, and there are actually a few followers from the outer sect behind him. At this time, someone knocked on the door outside. Su Fan frowned. Who is it so early in the morning? He lazily got up from the recliner and wanted to open the door. After a few steps, he turned back and took the teapot on the clay stove into the house. Who is it? He came to the gate and shouted to the outside. Su Daoyao, it's me. Su Fan recognized that this person was one of his neighbors. He opened the door and saw a middle-aged man named Fenqi standing outside. He was nearly 50 years old, with a thin face, a short beard, and a smile, but his eyes were narrow. Su Fan's eyes condensed, and he bowed and smiled. Congratulations, Feng Daoyao, your skills have improved further. After hearing Su Fan's words, Fenqi's face was immediately flushed. Alice. I have been stuck for more than 10 years, and finally broke through. Su Fan led Fenqi into the yard, and the two sat down under the awning, and poured him a glass of boiled water. I don't have any spiritual tea or anything, just boiled hot water. Daoyao, please don't be surprised. Fenqi picked up the cup and took a sip. Daoyao, your business is doing well. I saw someone coming from Kangju City just to eat your food. Su Fan smiled calmly, but he sneered in his heart. Damn, someone with ulterior motives finally noticed it. They are all friends in the sect. They are tired of eating in the city restaurants and want to try farm game. I helped arrange it. Fenqi looked at Su Fan with surprise and said, do you know anyone from Yinluo sect? Well, there are a few fellow villagers in the sect who have always taken good care of me. That's what I said. You can recruit so many disciples from the sect, they are very generous, right? Su Fan shook his head and said, not bad, but I can't lose money. After hearing what Su Fan said, Fenqi's eyes showed a trace of greed. Daoyao Su, you are amazing. It's not easy to make money from the spirit stones of the sect disciples. The two chatted for a few more words, and Fenqi left on the pretext of something. Su Fan sent Fenqi out of the yard, looked at his back, and sniffed. He turned and entered the yard, with a thought. Whoosh! A chill breath came from behind him, and Sister Zhen appeared out of nowhere. Su Fan conveyed a thought, and Sister Zhen disappeared again. He sneered, really, if you don't do it, you won't die. Su Fan was still wondering, why did he break through today when he hadn't completed the 5th level of key training a few days ago? It turned out that he was worshipping the golem. Just now, he performed the scent-smelling technique and detected a trace of the golem's breath. In fact, what Fenqi worshipped had nothing to do with him. But this guy obviously wanted to take advantage of him, which was really unkind. At noon, Su Fan finished preparing the main dishes for 6 tables and sat in the yard waiting for customers to come. Bang! The gate of the yard was kicked open, and the senior sister walked into the yard with a group of people. There was obvious anger on her face, and she didn't give Su Fan a good look when she saw her. "I flew for an hour in the heavy snow to come to your shabby place. I'm really free." Su Fan laughed and said, "Senior sister, I specially made a few pots for you. They're all new flavors. I guarantee you will be satisfied." HMPH, senior sister glared at him and went into the private room angrily. Liu He, like a lackey, trotted after him and made a face at him before entering the door. Su Fan ignored him at all. Now he was particularly annoyed by this guy's style. It was snowing, so he specially added a few pots, which were considered to be more distinctive dishes. Sour cabbage stewed lamb spine, radish stewed beef offal, dry pot spicy duck head, dry beans stewed braised pork, rib stewed kidney beans, simple spicy hot pot. Each pot is as big as a rice bowl. Served with a few refreshing mixed vegetables and a few light vegetable stir-fries. For this meal, you don't give 10 medium-grade spirit stones. How can you be embarrassed? There were spiritual charcoals under the 6 pots, and the pots were bubbling. Before they could eat, the senior sisters and the others were drooling. Su Fan also poured strong liquor into small wine pots, boiled them with boiling water and served them. It was snowing heavily outside, and the north wind was blowing outside the window, but the private room was warm as spring. Eating steaming hot pots and drinking hot strong liquor is really a great pleasure in life. After arranging the dishes for the 6 tables, Su Fan returned to his own courtyard. Whoosh! A gust of cold wind blew, and Sister Zhen appeared behind Su Fan and conveyed some ideas to him. Su Fan waved his hand to send Sister Zhen away, and then sneered. "Damn, it really makes people think about it. He has been approached twice, and this time Su Fan is ready to nip the crisis in the bud." On a cold winter night, the biting cold wind is still blowing, revealing a biting chill. The snow was still falling, and the snowflakes were falling from the sky in large numbers, creating a desolate and cold landscape in the wild. Su Fan was running on the snow in the heavy snow. Sister Zhen sent him a thought, and he slowly stopped. Through the vast snow curtain, he looked at the valley in front of him with cold eyes. Thanks to midnight half-pack of cigarettes for the monthly ticket, thanks to the encouragement, thanks to Birajan, Zik 66666 Yang, Kwasai 637, Zingayu Tuangying, Shuai 141,108,192,807,157, Shuai 201704191621251114, Shuai 2019121312563739 and all the big guys for their recommendation votes. Lao Bu is deeply grateful. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 75. How can I do this? According to the thoughts sent by Sister Zhen, Feng Qi left Hongyafang yesterday and came all the way here. This is a stronghold that Blue Ocean sect has just established not long ago. There are about 20 to 30 people in it. They usually gather here to worship the demon statue and practice. Most of them are in the early stage of Qi training, and the highest level is only the 7th level of Qi training. Su Fan put the magic sword on his back and slapped 2 talismans on his body, namely the invisibility talisman and the 5-element spirit armor talisman. A colorful light shield suddenly appeared on his body, followed by a few flashes, and then disappeared. Su Fan also performed the invisibility technique and wind walking technique in succession. His figure was like a thin piece of paper, floating in the snow curtain with a strong wind, and instantly floated to the valley. In a wooden house outside the valley, 2 evil cultivators were roasting by the fire. Bang! A figure suddenly knocked open the door of the wooden house, and before the 2 people could react, they were cut into 2 pieces by a sword light. After killing the 2 evil cultivators, Su Fan did not stop at all and instantly floated to the valley. There were several wooden houses built in the valley, and the largest one was in the middle. Su Fan had no intention of hiding his whereabouts, and rushed towards the largest wooden house. He turned his body sideways and slammed into the wall of the wooden house very violently. Boom! The wall of the wooden house was smashed to pieces, and the chaotic wood chips flew everywhere. Su Fan, with his strong body, crashed into the wooden house. Ah! Who? A middle-aged monk with a bare upper body and 2 disheveled female monks in the house shouted almost at the same time. Su Fan's feet flashed with lightning, and his figure disappeared from the spot. In a hurry, the middle-aged monk didn't even touch the storage bag, and Su Fan appeared beside him. With his right foot as the axis, he swung the big sword fiercely. Whirlwind slash. As the sword moved, it stirred up endless fierce winds out of thin air, as domineering as a strong wind sweeping fallen leaves. The broken wood chips on the ground in the house were all swept up and spun with the wind. The middle-aged cultivator was frightened by the fierce murderous aura, and it was too late to hide. He was cut in half by the sword. A female cultivator next to him had just taken out the talisman when a ferocious ghost face suddenly appeared from the side. Hiss! Sister Jen screamed shrilly, and the two female cultivators in the early stage of key training suddenly saw black in front of their eyes, and then they knew nothing. At this time, there was a commotion outside, and Su Fan left the wooden house. He slapped the corpse coffin on his waist, and two bronze-armored zombies were summoned, roaring and rushing into the crowd. Su Fan took out the ghost whip again, swung it forward, and the black rope swept towards the panicked crowd like a poisonous snake. Sister Jen also flew out of the wooden house, screaming shrilly and floating towards the evil cultivators who were fleeing in all directions. To be honest, Su Fan really didn't take these evil cultivators seriously. Relying on the evil practice of worshipping the demon statue, the quick key training of the 7th level was at most the level of the middle stage of key training. At this time, Su Fan saw a familiar figure. It was his neighbor Fen Qi. There was a flash of lightning under his feet, and he appeared in front of Fen Qi. Su Dao I. Before he could finish, he was already stagnant there, like a walking corpse. Su Fan carried him to a wooden house, splashed water on him to wake him up, and then used the thunder eyes to question him. After getting the information he wanted to know, he broke Fen Qi's neck. Su Fan came to the outside of the valley and let the two zombies and Sister Jen slaughter the evil cultivators in the valley. He would not let go of any of these evil cultivators who worshipped Blue Ocean Sect. Once given the opportunity, they would surely cause great suffering. With the information Fen Qi gave, the Blue Ocean Sect of Zhao State, which had just been destroyed, revived again. It is estimated that this situation may be not only in Zhao State, but also in all parts of the western wilderness. This is normal. For countless low-level casual cultivators with no future, they will not give up even if there is a little hope. It is too tempting to be able to improve their cultivation by 2 levels in 2 years. To put it bluntly, if Su Fan had not traveled through time, his predecessor, who had been stuck in a bottleneck for more than 10 years, would definitely join the Blue Ocean Sect without hesitation. This group of guys is too difficult to deal with. After killing so many evil cultivators, they still have to get rid of this blame. The next morning, the snow had stopped and the sky became clear. After the heavy snow, the whole world was covered with silver. A ray of morning sun passed through the sky, and the snow-covered ice field under his feet seemed to be covered with a layer of brilliance. Liu He was driving a magic weapon alone, whistling from a distance. Even though he was wearing a low-grade magic robe, he was still freezing. He looked around with a grin, looking for Su Fan's shadow. Brother is so deceiving. He made me come here so early in the morning, and I had to be alone. I'm freezing to death, he was complaining when he saw a man suddenly jump out of the snow and rush towards him. Nima. Before Liu He could react, he was kicked off the magic weapon by the other party. Plop. Liu He fell headfirst into the thick snow, his two exposed feet constantly kicking. Su Fan pulled Liu He out of the snow and started to curse. Are you stupid? You come to this place alone without even the most basic defense. If someone else had ambushed here, you would have been dead. Liu He wiped the snow off his face with his hands and looked at Su Fan with a bitter face. Brother, this is the control area of our Yinluo sect. How can there be any danger? Su Fan was so angry that he picked up Liu He and drove the magic weapon to the nearby valley. Open your eyes and look carefully. The dead people here are all evil cultivators of Blue Ocean Sect. Is this the territory of your Yinluo sect? Liu He was also stupid, looking at the corpses and flesh all over the ground, some of which were torn into pieces. Wow. Liu He, who could no longer control himself, turned around and vomited. Brother, what's going on? Did you kill them all? Su Fan looked at him with a smile. No, you killed them all. What? I don't have the ability to do that. There are dozens of people. Su Fan almost died of anger after hearing this. You are an elite of the inner sect of Yinluo sect. Why are you so cowardly? You will return to the sect later and say that you were ambushed by evil cultivators on the way to Hongyefang, and you killed them in return, and attacked the evil cultivators' base in one fell swoop, and obtained important intelligence. He laughed when he said this. This time, you have wiped out the base of Blue Ocean Sect, and obtained intelligence about the resurgence of the evil cult. Your contribution must be great. After hearing Su Fan's words, Liu He's eyes lit up immediately. This is a great contribution, and the sect's reward will definitely not be small. Then he has a firm foothold in the inner sect, but he thought about it and felt that this was too unkind. Brother, why don't you report these contributions? I don't want to take the blame. By then, I'm afraid the whole western wilderness will know that he, a casual cultivator, destroyed the base of dozens of Luotian sect. Why waste your time? Just go. Su Fan told Liu He all the information he had just obtained. Liu He was stunned. He was also frightened by the information. Without thinking, he drove the car to fly towards the sect. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.